Pursuers shout to find their target as they rush through the forest. The warriors are commanded to find and kill the target no matter where he is hiding. Hiding in the shadows with glowing eyes, he notes that several warriors are actively hunting him. He stays low in the brush, knowing the enemy is searching the woods to kill him. He realizes his survival depends on killing his pursuers before they can take his life. Looking at the massive search party, he reflects on how his life didn't always start this way. The young man introduces himself as Pio Wool. He recalls his past as a free drifter who roamed across the lands and seas. His life changed forever the moment he encountered a mysterious shadowed figure. He looks up in confusion, wondering who the stranger is. The mysterious figure stares down at him with a cold and hidden expression. Suddenly, Wool finds himself alone in a deep, empty void. He realizes his eyes are wide open, but he is surrounded by total darkness. He lies on the cold ground, desperately wondering where he has been taken. A sharp cry of pain escapes him as he struggles in the pitch-black space. He gasps for air, realizing he is completely paralyzed and lacks the strength to move. Tears well up in his eyes as he tries to understand why this is happening to him. He remembers being on the road just moments before the world changed. He recalls the mysterious man's chilling comment that he looked useful to him. He suspects the mysterious man is responsible for his imprisonment, though he has no idea of the stranger's identity. He questions why he was trapped in such a place, especially since he doesn't recall ever making any enemies. Gasping for air, he realizes his captor must have a specific purpose for him that doesn't involve immediate death. To keep his mind sharp, he recites his name and his parents' names, reminding himself of his own identity. He feels overwhelmed by the absolute darkness surrounding him, struggling to maintain his composure. Disoriented and lost, he can no longer tell if he has been awake or unconscious as time slips away. Filled with fear and loneliness, he desperately clings to his memories just to keep from losing his mind. He continues to repeat his name, but he begins to wonder how much longer he can endure this isolation. The agonizing pain of hunger finally sets in as he lies helplessly on the cold floor. He realizes that if he doesn't find food soon, he will surely starve to death in this abyss. He fears that either starvation or madness will claim his life before he can find a way out. He wonders if his abductor's true intention was simply to leave him here to rot and die of hunger. He searches for a reason for his suffering, unable to understand what he did to deserve such a cruel fate. Despite being a lowly beggar, he is filled with rage at the injustice of being thrown into this living hell. He discovers that he can finally move his hand, sparking a small glimmer of hope in the darkness. His body begins to react as he slowly regains control over his numbed limbs. His breathing becomes steadier as his physical senses slowly start to return to him. By feeling the cold floor and smelling the damp air, he confirms that he is trapped deep underground. A single drop of water falls into a small puddle, breaking the absolute silence of the cavern. He hears the distinct sound of water dripping nearby, providing him with a vital target for survival. Driven by an intense thirst, he knows he must reach that water source at any cost. He groans in agony as he forces his weakened body to move across the stone floor. With sheer willpower, he pushes himself forward, determined to reach the water just a few steps away. Gasped breaths fill the air as he repeats his vow to survive this nightmare. With eyes full of fire and resolve, he declares his absolute refusal to die in this dark abyss. He strains with all his might as he crawls toward the sound of dripping water. He gasps in exhaustion while dragging his weakened body across the stone floor. Upon reaching the source, he realizes he is blocked by a massive, rock-solid stone wall. He feels the cold surface, confirming he is trapped within a solid structure. He desperately claws at the wall until his fingers bleed, letting out a pained cry from the injury. Realizing his efforts are futile, he collapses onto the hard ground with a grunt of frustration. He accepts that he cannot break through the stone barrier in his current state. He takes a moment to catch his breath, exhaling in relief after the intense exertion. As he lies exhausted on the floor, a mysterious figure suddenly appears and stands over him. Wool senses the presence and weakly opens his eyes to see who has arrived. Startled by the unexpected encounter, he wonders about the identity of the person looking down at him. A mysterious figure appearing like a calm version of himself asks why he is struggling so hard to stay alive. Wool lies broken and exhausted on the cold ground, staring blankly into the void. The figure mocks his efforts, calling his life worthless, and questioning why he continues to fight so much. The stranger crouches over the fallen boy and demands that he finally give up. He promises Wool that surrendering and letting go will finally bring him peace. Wool weakly questions if peace is truly possible, catching the mysterious figure off guard. He doubts that giving up will bring him any rest, and decides that he cannot let it all go. With a spark of defiance in his eyes, he declares his absolute intention to survive. The figure dismisses his resolve, claiming that he is merely wasting what little strength he has left. Wool refuses to die peacefully until he can find and kill the person who trapped him in this abyss. He vows to survive until the very end to get revenge on everyone who made him suffer. When asked if he is truly committed to vengeance, Wool firmly confirms his decision. The figure looks down at him, questioning if he really refuses to surrender. Wool screams out with all his remaining strength that he will never give up. A faint smile appears on the figure's face as he witnesses the boy's unwavering spirit. Returning to reality, Wool realizes he is still trapped in total darkness and cannot see a thing. He wonders if the encounter was just a dream, or if the isolation is finally driving him insane. He grunts as he forces his weakened body to move. He clenches his teeth, declaring his absolute determination to survive. Reaching a wall where water drips, he notices some growth and wonders if it is moss. He decides he must eat it to stay alive, despite not knowing if it is edible. Driven by desperation, he prepares to eat the small clump of moss. He forces the moss into his mouth, telling himself he must eat to live. He nearly gags from the revolting taste, wondering how something can taste so bad. To his relief, his body feels fine, and he realizes the moss is actually edible. He continues to frantically gather more of the moss, knowing he needs the food. Tears stream down his face as he continues to eat the bitter growth. He reaffirms his vow to survive this nightmare at any cost. He begins to explore his cell, walking slowly along the cold stone walls. He looks around the dark room, trying to understand the place where he is trapped. After measuring the area, he calculates that his prison is a small space of about 9 square meters. He confirms his suspicion that he was intentionally trapped in this place by someone. A sudden metallic sound echoes through the room, catching him off guard. A heavy iron door opens, flooding the pitch-black space with blinding light. After so much time in the dark, the sudden light is painfully bright to his eyes. He rushes toward the opening, shouting for help in a desperate attempt to escape. He spots a shadow through the slot before the door suddenly slams shut again. Left in total darkness once more, he gasps for air as his hope for escape fades. He catches a scent in the air and pauses to investigate the smell. He is shocked to realize that the smell coming from the door is that of food. He looks down to find a bowl of food scraps left on the floor for him. He inhales the aroma of the meal, his hunger becoming even more intense. Examining the bowl, he identifies at least 5 different types of food leftovers. He realizes that such a variety of scraps means there must be many others trapped here with him. He reasons that it would be inefficient to build such a place for just one person. He concludes that there must be at least 5 people managing this secret prison. He envisions many other prisoners suffering in similar cells all around him. With a dark and determined expression, he wonders about his captor's true goal. He smells the aroma of hot spices and pork, wondering if the meal is Sichuan food. Driven by intense hunger, he frantically devours the food with desperate speed. He decides to focus on finishing his meal first, knowing he has plenty of time to think later. He reflects that the scraps are a massive improvement over the moss he was forced to eat. The empty bowl clatters across the dark stone floor after he finishes every last bite. He licks the remaining scraps from his fingers, his eyes burning with a cold and renewed determination. Wool huffs as he pushes his body to the limit with intense physical training on the cold stone floor. He reflects on the fact that at least 4 months have passed since his imprisonment began, as he continues his grueling workout. Once every day, his captors silently provide him with a single bowl of food through a small slot in the door. Frustrated by the isolation and silence, he lashes out at the solid stone walls of his prison. He notes that his captors never speak a single word to him, leaving him in absolute solitude. Despite being trapped in a narrow and dark space, Wool struggles through the pain to keep moving. He admits that while the situation nearly drove him insane, he has been using his time to train rather than doing nothing. His senses have sharpened in the darkness, and he realizes he is now able to see his surroundings a little better. He feels himself slowly adapting to the pitch-black environment as his vision continues to improve. In the absolute darkness of the underground space, he begins to notice small things moving around him. He observes that many insects manage to thrive in this lightless abyss. He spots movement nearby and realizes that centipedes are crawling through the darkness with him. A massive scaled snake slithers through the dark, oppressive void. Wool is caught off guard as the serpent suddenly coils tightly around his arm. He stares in shock at the creature as it lets out a menacing hiss while tightening its grip. The serpent stares back with glowing red eyes, its forked tongue flickering as it prepares to strike. Without warning, the snake sinks its fangs into him, leaving him paralyzed with shock. He groans in agony, struggling to endure the sharp sting of the bite. He lets out a blood-curdling scream as a wave of intense pain courses through his entire body. Gasping for breath, he feels a burning sensation spreading through his veins, and wonders why his entire body feels like it is on fire. He looks at his darkening skin and realizes with horror that he has been poisoned by the snake's venom. He collapses to the floor, his body convulsing as the agonizing poison takes hold. He grinds his teeth through the excruciating pain, his eyes bloodshot from the sheer intensity of the suffering. A terrifying vision of the massive serpent looms over him as he continues to scream in absolute torment. He drifts into a dark, empty void, his body broken and overwhelmed by the venomous fire. A mysterious hand slides a stone bowl through the small slot in his prison door. The bowl sits in the dim light, offering a meager chance for survival. Despite his agony, he desperately reaches out and grabs the bowl with a trembling hand. He clings to the bowl, his breath coming in ragged gasps as he fights to stay conscious. With eyes full of burning resolve, he vows that he will not allow himself to die in this place no matter what happens. A pair of red, glowing snake eyes watch Wool from the shadows as he eats the food. Wool finally gets a clear look at the massive white snake with glowing red eyes that shares his dark prison. He reflects on how he nearly died from the creature's venom, and realizes a strange change occurred within his body during the recovery process. He is shocked to find that his vision has significantly improved, allowing him to see much better in the pitch-black environment. Fascinated by his new abilities, he wonders if the serpent is the true reason for his sudden physical transformation. He recalls stories of people growing stronger after surviving poison, and decides to take a massive risk to gain more power. Driven by the desire to gain poison resistance and a new weapon, he prepares himself for another deadly strike. He deliberately lets the snake bite his hand, gritting his teeth as the fangs sink deep into his flesh. His arm begins to bulge with terrifying dark patterns as the venom starts to spread through his system once more. He briefly questions his own recklessness, as his entire body feels like it has been set on fire by the intense poison. Despite the overwhelming heat, he remains standing and refuses to let the agony break his resolve. A dark grin spreads across his face as he realizes the pain is much more manageable than the first time he was bitten. He observes the snake, noting that while its eyes have failed in the darkness, it remains an exceptional and deadly hunter. He watches the creature use sound to incapacitate its prey, moving with a level of stealth that he finds impressive. He admires the serpent's discipline, noting that it never hunts more than it needs, and leaves the other insects alone after eating. Wool feels a strange sense of kinship with the beast, concluding that they are the only two intelligent beings in this lightless void. Wool feels a sudden vibration and wonders what could be causing it. He is shocked to realize that the door to his prison has finally opened. He steps out into a dark stone hallway and begins to walk cautiously. He notes that the next room is 20 steps away, explaining why he was never able to sense the presence of other prisoners. He stops to look into one of the open cells along the corridor. His sharpened senses pick up a revolting scent coming from inside the room. He is horrified to discover the unmistakable smell of rotting flesh. He observes a corpse on the floor and realizes from their small build that the victim was around his own age. He wonders if the same gruesome fate has befallen the occupants of the other rooms. Wool continues to walk down the long, silent hallway. He reaches a massive iron door at the end of the corridor and prepares to move forward. He discovers that the bolts on the heavy door have been removed, leaving it completely unblocked. With a determined effort, he pushes the heavy iron door open. As he enters the new room, he is startled to find something. Several other survivors stand in the shadows, which means he isn't the only one alive here. He stands at the entrance of a new room, surveying his surroundings. He finds two other survivors huddled together in the shadows of a stone cell. His steady footsteps echo as he walks across the cold floor. The two strangers react with shock as they notice him approaching through the dark. He continues to move through the dark hallway with a steady pace. Looking into another cell, he realizes the situation there is just as grim as his own. The girl looks at him in confusion and asks who he is. She demands to know where he came from, claiming they are the only ones left. He realizes she can't actually see him in the dark, and knows he is the only one who has adapted. He introduces himself as Pio Wool and explains he was trapped in a nearby sector. The girl is shocked to learn about other sectors, and Wool asks for their names. She identifies herself as Im So Yawol and her companion as Song Qianwu. Wool looks ahead with a cold, focused expression. He tells the others to follow him as he prepares to move. The girl asks him where they are supposed to go. He explains that there are likely many more prison sectors like this. 1. They are stunned to find another massive door, confirming his suspicions about the facility. He commands them to follow him deeper into the dark hallway. The two survivors follow closely behind, still feeling uncertain. Because of the blinding darkness, she tells Qian Wu to hold her hand. Qian Wu nervously agrees as they follow Wool's lead. Another heavy stone door slowly slides open with a loud rumble. They are greeted by a group of other survivors, who look on in surprise. He walks past the new group, ignoring their stares. He notices that in this area fewer people have died of starvation compared to his own sector. He observes the scars on a deceased prisoner and realizes they chose death instead of enduring the isolation. Wool notices that this sector has much more food than his own and wonders if the captors are treating the prisoners differently. He deeply questions what the captors could be planning by managing the different sectors with such obvious discrimination. Yawol calls out to him and gives more info about these new survivors. He learns that these new prisoners were abducted and trapped in the facility around the same time as his own group. The other survivors are introduced as they prepare to move forward together. The other survivors are introduced as Wall leads them into a dark cave-like entrance. The sound of their steady footsteps echoes through the hollow space. The group stands before another massive metal door as Wall prepares to open it. He places his hand on the surface and pushes the heavy door aside. A blinding light floods the area as the door rumbles open. The other survivors cry out in pain as the sudden brightness overwhelms their sensitive eyes. Wool shields his eyes and realizes that despite the light, they haven't reached the surface yet. He confirms to himself that they are still trapped deep underground. The survivors are so used to the absolute darkness that even a simple torchlight is enough to blind them. Wool steps into a massive chamber lit by torches, revealing a hidden facility. The survivors gasp in shock as they take in the scale of the underground structure. A large underground complex designed to look like a small village is revealed within the cavern. The group of survivors continues walking toward the mysterious underground village. Wool investigates one of the buildings and discovers that the entire area is completely deserted. Yahello agrees with his observation and wonders about the strange situation they have found themselves in. Wool examines the construction of the buildings and notices they were built poorly and in a great rush. He observes that the buildings were only made to look good on the outside, while the interiors remain unfinished. Wolf deeply questions the true purpose behind creating such a deceptive environment. Li Min calls out to Wool to get his attention and confirm something with him. The two of them stand in silence as they process their surroundings. The girl introduces herself as Li Min and asks Wool to look after her from now on. Wool remains silent, deep in thought about their current predicament. Li Min reaches out to touch his face and asks if his eyes have always been that way, catching him by surprise. She stares intently at his red pupils and remarks that they look beautiful. Wool is shocked to learn his eyes are bright red and wonders if the snake bite caused the change. He worries that being different in this facility could put him in danger. Li Min explains that the red color is only visible near light and realizes that Wool was unaware of the change. She concludes that his transformation must have happened during his time in the prison. Wool feels a sense of relief knowing his condition isn't always obvious to others. Li Min asks what is on his mind, but he dismisses her question by saying he is just thinking about this and that. Min observes that Wool stands out as being very different from the other children in the facility. Wool curiously asks her to explain why she thinks he is so different. She smiles and explains that while everyone else is lost in confusion, he is the only one actively trying to figure things out. Yahello approaches the pair and asks what they are doing alone in the shadows. Min calmly reply that they were just having a conversation about this and that. The girl tilts her head in confusion. She explains that the other children have decided to stick together and asks what the two of them plan to do. Wool and Min look at her with blank expressions, wondering what she is referring to. Accompanied by Qianwu, she explicitly asks if they intend to stay with the rest of the group. Wall looks down with a cold and detached expression, stating that they will have to wait and see. The others are visibly shocked by his answer, questioning if he truly intends to refuse their invitation. He clarifies his position, explaining that he simply wants to observe how things develop before making a decision. Yahello stares at him in silence, disappointed. She eventually accepts his choice and tells him he's welcome to join them later if he changes his mind. Turning her attention to Min, she asks for the girl's decision on the matter. Min decides to join the others, believing that sticking together offers a much better chance for survival. Wool watches them with a cold gaze, thinking that their long isolation has made them mentally unstable. He walks away into the deep darkness, deciding it is safer to watch the group from a distance for now. Shortly after seeing each other's faces for the first time, the children have already begun to form several distinct groups. One group is established with So Yaowool and Song Qianwu acting as its key members. Another group forms under the leadership of a boy named Kang Il. Yom Il-jung stands as the central figure for a third group of survivors. A fourth group gathers with Go Young-san serving as their head. Standing apart from everyone else, Wool remains the only child who isn't part of any group. The struggle for survival continues as new power dynamics begin to emerge within the underground village. The other children whisper in suspicion, wondering how Wool survived his sector alone, and if he might have killed the others. Observing the social divide, Wool reflects that the world and its people remain the same no matter where he goes. He decides to ignore the others for now, focusing on his own path as he walks through the deserted village. Wool investigates a nearby wall, carefully examining the thick moss growing on the ancient stone. He deduces that while the buildings are new, the heavy moss proves the underground space was built a very long time ago. He concludes that a wealthy and powerful individual must have recently repurposed this massive facility for a specific purpose. Suddenly, a loud mechanical sound echoes through the chamber as something begins to move above them. Startled by the sudden noise, Wall looks up and notices a strange light appearing from the ceiling. The survivors watch in shock as a massive basket is lowered into the center of the village from the ceiling. The basket is revealed to be overflowing with a large variety of fresh food and vegetables. Starving and desperate, the children shout in excitement and prepare to rush toward the meal. A hand suddenly stops the crowd as Yaowl and other key members step forward to take control of the basket. The other children react with anger and frustration, shouting at the leaders to move out of their way. Yaowl calmly proposes that they should distribute the food fairly among all of the survivors. The leaders of the different groups exchange tense looks as they process her suggestion for shared resources. The 4 group representatives decide to take charge and oversee the distribution of the food themselves. Wool tells the group to wait as they gather around the shared food basket. He steps forward and declares that he intends to take his share of the food as well. As he reaches for a meal, Il-young aggressively grabs his arm and tells him to put it back. Wool stares back with a cold and detached expression, unmoved by the boy's threat. Il-jung firmly states that no one is allowed to take any food without their explicit permission. He makes it clear that the group leaders will be in total control of everything in the basket. Wool's eyes suddenly transform into slitted pupils as he prepares to retaliate. With a burst of incredible speed, Wool slams Il-jung's head violently into the stone floor. The other group leaders and survivors are left paralyzed with shock at the sudden display of power. Wool pins the red-haired leader to the ground, asserting his dominance over the entire group. He looks down with a terrifying gaze and dares the boy to repeat his previous demands. Il-jung gasps for air in total agony as Wool's grip tightens around his throat. Wool demands he speak up while the other children scream in panic for him to stop. With his red eyes glowing, Wool ignores their pleas and continues his brutal assault. Il-jung's team members watch in horror, convinced that Wool has completely lost his mind. Looking at his eyes and his facial expression, they wondered if he had gone completely mad. Yaowl pleads with him to let go, but Wool coldly asks for a reason to stop. She reasons that the message has been delivered, and there is no need for further violence. When Wool asks about the food, she quickly promises that his share will be protected. She looks to the other terrified leaders, who quickly nod in agreement to avoid his wrath. Wool finally releases the boy and stands up, leaving the group in stunned silence. Enraged, the red-haired boy curses at his opponent while clutching his face in pain. Wool coldly threatens to blind the boy's other eye if he continues to provoke him. The injured boy calls him a lunatic, as Woe stands completely unmoved by the insult. While the other children huddle together to eat, Wool watches them from a distance. He realizes that their entire situation is a calculated test, designed to weed out the weak. He knows the killing will continue until the captors achieve their goal, regardless of how many children die. He calmly accepts that eventually, everyone in the facility will likely become his enemy. The survivors continue to interact in the courtyard, unaware of the dark future ahead. Yaowl checks on him, noting that his recent display of violence caused many children to abandon the red-haired leader's group. He points out that her group has now become the largest and most powerful among the survivors. She is surprised to realize that despite his distance, Wool has been closely observing their every move. He admits that he is keeping a close eye on them just as much as they are watching him. Wool recognizes Yaowol's leadership, noting how she, who gathers the most food for the group while eating the least, has earned their absolute loyalty. She asks if the other children's fear is the reason he continues to stay isolated in the shadows. He simply replies that he finds the darkness comfortable, which she quietly accepts. In his mind, he reveals his dangerous plan to continue building his resistance to the serpent's deadly venom. Seeing that the bites no longer cause him pain, he concludes that he has successfully developed poison resistance. She tries to convince him to join her group, but Wool remains firm in his decision to stay alone. Their conversation is interrupted by the arrival of the daily food delivery. Kang warns the other children not to attempt to escape in the basket unless they want to fall to their deaths. The children are horrified to find that the amount of food provided has significantly decreased. Wool looks down in silence while Yaowl reacts with shock at the dwindling resources. Hearing about the empty basket, he realizes the next phase of their brutal ordeal has begun. Mak No-sam is a small but tenacious survivor from the final sector who joined So Yawal's group and proved his worth through sheer determination. Tragically, the young boy is soon found dead, his body left battered on the cold ground. The other survivors are overcome with grief and rage, desperately demanding to know who committed this act, and vowing never to forgive the killer. Despite their loud cries of injustice, a heavy silence falls over the group, as everyone realizes the grim truth behind the situation. Wool watches the scene from the rocks above, coldly concluding that the boy died simply because he was the weakest among them. He remains detached as he accepts the brutal reality of their ongoing ordeal. Yaowol and Cheonwoo stand in grim silence over the body of their fallen companion. Cheonwoo is consumed by rage and vows to take revenge on whoever is responsible for this murder. Yaowol coldly points out that the killer's identity is irrelevant compared to the fact that they have lost a follower. With a chilling expression, she declares that they must retaliate by killing someone in the exact same way. As Wall watches from above, it becomes clear that the weakest members of the other groups are now targets. Observing the escalating tension, Wool realizes that an all-out war has officially begun. The cycle of violence claims another victim from Youngsan's group, marking only the start of the slaughter. Night after night, bodies continue to pile up as every single group suffers losses in the ongoing conflict. Driven to the brink by starvation, the children lose their humanity and turn into savage demons who distrust everyone. Wool is forced to eat disgusting moss again, struggling to stomach the revolting taste just to stay alive. He notes that the other starving children haven't ventured this far into the facility yet. Despite the current silence, he is certain that this brief moment of peace is about to end. His sharpened senses alert him to the fact that someone has finally arrived at his location. He counts at least 4 people approaching, and deduces that they are searching for him intentionally. Il-jung arrives with his group, confirming with a companion that they have found the right place. The group moves cautiously through the dark corridor, guided only by the light of a single torch. Consumed by hatred, Il-jung demands to know where his target is hiding. Having killed others to grow stronger, Il-jung decides that now is the perfect time to settle the score with Wool. He frantically searches the area while Wool watches him from the safety of the shadows. The search is suddenly interrupted as one of the boys screams in pain after being bitten by something. The victim collapses and begins foaming at the mouth, as the others watch in horror, unaware of the hidden predator. Realizing they are under attack, a panicked Il-jung warns his group to be on guard against the unknown threat. But suddenly another one of his companion vanishes, leaving only a torch on the ground. Now only 2 of them remain. Il-jung shouts into the darkness, demanding to know Wool's location and calling him a coward for hiding. Wool suddenly appears from the absolute darkness behind one of the boys, catching him completely off guard. With terrifying speed, Wool moves to attack the boy before he can even realize he is there. The boy gasps in pain as Wool grabs him, while Il-jung looks on in shock at the sudden ambush. Wool holds the struggling boy in a chokehold. Il-jung stares back with a mix of fury and fear, realizing his group is being picked apart by a monster. He demands that Wool release his companion immediately, shouting for him to let go. Wool stares coldly at his hostage, noting that the boy will surely die if he continues to apply pressure. He realizes that taking this life will officially cross the line and make him a murderer. He reflects that while he might spare the boy for now, his path to survival will eventually require blood. Il-jung screams in horror as he watches Wool's brutal and calculated actions against his men. Wool remains detached from the violence, accepting that he will have to kill someone sooner or later. Il-jung curses Wool for killing all of his men and calls him a demon for his cruelty. He charges forward with a desperate cry, determined to kill the demon standing before him. The 2 clash in a blur of motion as Il-jung launches a series of frantic, uncoordinated strikes. Wool moves with precise control and easily dodges the desperate attacks. Angrily, Il-jung prepares to deliver a finishing blow to his opponent, but Wool easily dodges the attack and vanishes into the darkness. Il-jung frantically looks around the area, demanding that Wool stop running away like a rat and come out. Wool appears behind him like a ghost, coldly warning that this encounter won't end with just one eye this time. Il-jung screams and runs away in terror. Wool stares down at his broken opponent with a cold and focused expression of pure intent. He walks toward the fallen leader with a slow and steady pace, his footsteps echoing in the silence. Wool's red eyes glow in the dark as he looks down at the terrified and sweating Il-jung. Desperate to survive, Il-jung begs Wool to wait and frantically proposes that they should join forces. Wool looks on with a silent, judging gaze as the boy reaches out and pleads for his life. Il-jung continues to shout, claiming that together they could even defeat the strongest groups in the facility. Wool's eyes remain fixed on his target, showing no sign of mercy or interest in the boy's offer. In a final act of desperation, Il-jung offers to become Wool's underling and promises to be useful to him. Wool looks down at the pathetic display, remaining skeptical of the boy's sudden and forced loyalty. He points out that while the boy might be obedient now, he is certain to pull the same tricks in the future. Il-jung screams out a desperate denial, swearing that he would never turn against Wool again. Wool ignores the useless pleas and prepares to strike him. He slams the boy's head into the hard stone floor with a devastating strike. But it doesn't end there. With incredible speed, he leaps onto Il-jung's body and delivers a powerful chokehold from behind. Il-jung desperately begs for forgiveness, while Wool's face looks demonic, confirming he has no intention of showing mercy to the boy. He reflects that the only reason he killed the boy was because he himself is still weak to do otherwise. With his glowing red eyes, Wool walks away into the darkness, leaving the dead behind as he continues his path. A message confirms that Il-jung's group has been officially disbanded. The other group leaders are stunned to find Il-jung and his confidants dead. It becomes clear to everyone that Pyo-wol is the one responsible for the deaths. Yao-wol wonders just how strong Wool has become after he killed 4 people alone. Kang decides that he must never become Wool's enemy if he wants to survive. Yongsan reflects on Wool being cunning and spiteful. He notes that Wool knows exactly how to make people fear him. He lets out a deep sigh, overwhelmed by the escalating violence. He realizes that the food shortage has reached a point where people must be killed to survive. He concludes that in the end, everyone in this place has become a murderer. He believes that after killing the powerful Il-jung, no one will dare to touch Wall again. Young-san warns his group members to stay away from Pyo-Wall and never approach him. The group members quickly agree, clearly terrified of the consequences. A boy rushes into the room shouting for his leader's attention. He reports that 2 kids banished from Yao-Wall's group are hiding nearby. Yong-san asks for confirmation as he processes the news. He immediately asks about the food they might be carrying. The scout reveals they have a potato and urges the group to hurry before it's gone. The group excitedly prepares to set out for the food. Reflecting on the cruelty of killing for a single potato, Yong-san tells his team to get ready. 2 children sit quietly together while one of them holds on to a single potato. Yong-san watches them from the shadows and tells his companion to look at the target. The starving children fixate on the food as their desperation turns them into savage demons. Yong-san is startled as his group launches a reckless attack to steal the meal without his command. The 2 children flee in terror while the hungry mob chases after them. Yong-san watches his whole group run toward the children to steal a single potato. He suddenly senses that something is strange and realizes their position is disadvantageous. The children who had the food signal for an ambush to begin. Yong-san's group is caught off guard as hidden attackers strike from above. He screams in horror as he watches the ambush unfold. A brutal struggle breaks out as the survivors clash over the meager resources. More fighters emerge from the shadows to join the chaotic battle. Yong-san realizes they have walked into a trap and orders his group to retreat immediately. He finds himself completely surrounded by enemies with no way to escape. Yao-Wol mocks them, stating they caught a big fish using only a single potato as bait. She coldly declares that they will significantly reduce the number of survivors they have to feed today. Yong-san realizes he made a massive mistake and shouts in anger at the people who dared to trick him. Yao-Wol stares coldly at her trapped enemies while Yong-san's eyes burn with intense fury. Desperate to save his group, Yong-san begs her to take only his life and spare the others. She admits she would like to help but coldly states they simply cannot afford to feed everyone. He asks if she will only be happy once everyone is dead, but she reminds him he would have done the exact same thing in her position. Without showing any mercy, she turns her back and gives the final order to slaughter them all. A fierce battle breaks out as the group launches a violent attack to finish off their enemies. The underground village turns into a chaotic battlefield as the children fight desperately for survival. Yao-Wol looks toward the rooftops, noticing Wall watching the entire massacre from a distance. Sitting alone in the shadows, Wall finally begins to understand the true nature of their situation. He analyzes how the facility is designed for using the terrain and complex tricks during combat. He notices the building layouts are strategically placed to make any infiltration impossible against skilled guards. He deduces the village is a copy of a real location designed to train them into cold-blooded killers. He realizes they are being prepared to attack a powerful clan or an influential figure in the future. He understands they are just disposable tools meant to carry out a suicide mission for their captors. Their captors have destroyed their humanity to turn them into the perfect weapons for a dark purpose. Wool reaches the final conclusion that they are all being trained to become assassins. A man laughs cruelly as he asks his companions if they saw the person he just strangled to death. He continues to mock his victim, claiming the boy looked like a gasping carp while he was dying. Another survivor joins in, remarking that the target looked like a startled hedgehog when they ambushed him from behind. The group laughs together, finding amusement in the brutal stories of their recent kills. They praises their boss and excitedly declares that they have achieved a complete victory. They confidently states that no one will dare to oppose their group now, as they celebrate their dominance. Min watches the celebration from a distance, looking deeply troubled by the behavior of the others. She reflects on the grim reality of their situation, thinking that she can still smell the blood in the air. She realizes with horror that everyone has become accustomed to murder, and wonders how they can eat so carefreely with blood-stained hands. Overwhelmed by disgust, she shudders while looking at the other children who have lost their humanity. She begins to weep, realizing that even she has been forever changed by this hellish environment. A loud mechanical sound from above catches everyone's attention as a bright light appears from the ceiling. The children look up in anticipation, wondering if it is already time for their next meal. They question the unusual timing, noting that the food delivery should have arrived much later. Yao-Wol, their leader, urged everyone to act quickly and secure as much food as possible from the basket. She smiles with relief, believing they can finally eat their fill now that their rivals have been eliminated. She pauses to look around, wondering where Wool has gone while the others are distracted. She spots him standing alone in the distance, observing the scene with a detached gaze. She notices his rigid expression and realizes he looks as if he is warily guarding against an unseen threat. She questions what could be worrying him so much when a sudden, alarming sound startles the entire group. She looks up in absolute shock as the situation suddenly takes a terrifying turn. Masked men dressed in red and black suddenly descend from the ceiling opening like predators. The attackers land violently among the startled children, creating a cloud of dust and panic. One of the masked figures glares with glowing eyes, signaling the start of a new ordeal. A brutal slaughter begins as the masked men ruthlessly attack the survivors without any warning. The attackers use their weapons to strike down the children, showing no mercy to anyone in their path. A boy cries out in confusion and pain as he is violently beaten by one of the masked figures. Yahello screams in terror as she is thrown to the ground during the chaotic assault. The survivors lie broken and bleeding on the floor, desperately pleading for the attackers to stop the violence. Wool is caught in the middle and ruthlessly attacked by masked men. He forces himself to stay still and endure the beating, knowing that making a move now would only draw unwanted attention to himself. Three mysterious figures wearing white masks appear, each marked with Roman numerals 1, 2, and 3, possibly indicating hierarchy, one at the top and the others below. They stand calmly over the fallen children. Radiating an aura of absolute authority and power. Wool glares at the newcomers, realizing they are the ones truly in command of the masked attackers. One of the leaders raises a gloved hand, silently ordering the masked men to halt their assault. The attackers immediately stop their movements and stand guard over the defeated survivors. The leader, wearing the mask marked with the number 1, introduces himself as First Sword and declares that their lives now belong to him. A survivor attempts to protest, but the masked leader quickly and violently silences him. With a lethal strike, the leader executes the defiant boy in front of the entire group. The other children watch in absolute horror as their companion's severed head rolls across the stone floor. The leader coldly reminds the survivors that none of them have permission to speak. Wool's eyes burn with intense hatred as he watches the masked men. The scene shifts to a private room where First Sword or Leader 1 and Leader 2 are sitting together. First Sword explain that the children are being treated like curse poison created in a jar. They describe the process of forcing poisonous organisms to eat each other until only the strongest one remains. They conclude that the final survivor of this ordeal will possess the most potent and deadly poison within them. The leader reflect on how the most wicked and instinctively strong children have survived exactly as they intended. First Sword asks which survivors truly deserve special attention from his subordinate. Leader number 2. Leader number 2 identifies So Yahello as a primary candidate due to her leadership and influence over the others. They decide that her spirit must be properly crushed soon, or she will become too difficult to manage in the future. The subordinate acknowledges the order to grant her special attention to prevent any chance of rebellion. They also note that Song Chin-woo and Kang Il have outstanding martial arts senses despite being overshadowed by Yahello. The conversation turns to the sole survivor of Sector 1. First Sword asks his subordinate about the survivor's current condition. Leader 2 confirms that Pyo Wool is still alive. Leader 1 notes that Sector 1 had the least food and the worst conditions. Wool surviving it makes him far from ordinary. First Sword gives a direct order to keep a very close eye on the boy as he continues to develop. The subordinate bows and confirms his understanding of the instructions as they prepare for the next phase. First Sword reflect on the fact that only 6 years remain to complete a specific and urgent request. He holds a golden scroll, wondering why their captain accepted such a demanding mission. This implies someone above them in the hierarchy. The scroll reveals a secret assassination contract for the Blood Shadow Group, offering a massive reward of 500,000 gold yang. The mission must be completed within 7 years and leave no trace of the Blood Shadow Group. Back at the facility, Leader 3 stands atop a high building, overseeing the surviving children below. He points to a building in the distance and declares that the final house is their objective. He explains that the fastest survivor will receive a break, while the last one will be taught what true hell is. Desperate to avoid punishment, the children frantically run toward the objective. The merciless days continue as the children endure a brutal environment designed to break them. Their days are filled with grueling training intended to raise them into cold-blooded assassins. They all understand that those who cannot endure the process will die before ever seeing the outside world again. They realize they must do whatever it takes to survive this nightmare. Yahello reaches the objective first, standing on the rooftop with a red flag. First Sword and Leader 2 observes the scene from above. First Sword praises her as the most exceptional candidate, noting that her intelligence and executive ability are top-notch. When asked about Pyo Wool's progress, Leader 2 says the boy currently seems average. He notes that Wool hasn't shown anything that sets him apart from the other survivors. This implies Wool is deliberately performing averagely to avoid drawing attention. First Sword wonders if they misjudged him, but tells his subordinate to keep watching him just in case. Meanwhile, Yahello questions the name of the new cultivation technique. She notices Wall is still reading the manual, and mentions that he has already learned more than enough. Wool explains that the instructors have stopped requiring them to read the technique. He tells her that he simply felt like continuing his study of the manual. Yahello yawns and asks Wool if he ever gets tired, noting how fit he seems. She tells him to have fun and decides to head to sleep before him. Wool calmly agrees as she leaves. Wool stares into the distance with his sharp red eyes. He remembers Instructor Leader 3 saying the technique is easy for beginners and fledglings like them, but they had a hard time learning it. He gave all the children 3 months to master it. Wool sits in a cross-legged position, focusing his mind on the manual before him. A powerful aura of energy begins to swirl around his body as he practices. He focuses on the first process of the technique. He realizes this will allow his body to feel and accumulate internal energy. He reflects on the thunder-splitting cultivation technique assigned by the instructors to help them feel chi. He realizes that everyone views it as a basic stepping stone, and that no one has truly mastered it. He ponders the literal meaning of splitting thunder. Since physically splitting thunder is impossible, he deduces the technique refers to the incredible speed of one's thoughts. He believes that following this new interpretation will allow him to gain a unique power. Wool decides to hide his progress, resolving not to stand out as either too strong or too weak. He reflects on how he has successfully stayed under the radar during training until now. Other trainees shout as they engage in a violent practice session nearby. Wool's pupils narrow as he focuses his vision on an incoming attack. He moves with incredible agility to evade a sudden strike from another trainee. The boy laughs in surprise after Wool successfully dodges his attack. Wool realizes with a cold look that his opponent was genuinely trying to kill him and asks for the reason behind the lethal intent. The boy gleefully claims that a fake fight is boring and wants a real struggle. Wool stares back coldly, acknowledging the boy's thirst for violence. Wool notices that the instructor is ignoring them, proving that the captors do not care what happens. The boy urges Wool to fight with everything he has as he lunges forward again. The attacker warns Wool that he will be devoured if he doesn't fight back with lethal force. He sprints across the training ground with intense speed, determined to land a hit. Their weapons collide in a shower of sparks during the high-speed exchange. Wool is surprised to find that his opponent is even utilizing hidden blades in his attack. The boy lets out a sharp cackle as he reveals his sharp hidden weapons. He swings his claws violently, trying to tear through Wool's defenses. Wool stands calmly as multiple strikes fly toward him from every direction. He remains perfectly centered while analyzing the trajectory of the incoming blades, before preparing his counter-move. He leaps into the air, gracefully avoiding and blocking a flurry of dangerous strikes. The boy attempts to ambush Wool from behind, but Wool is already one step ahead. The two trainees engage in a fierce struggle, their daggers locked together. The boy continues to grin like a maniac, enjoying the thrill of the life-or-death battle. Suddenly, the boy launches fast, powerful blade strikes toward him. The boy is certain Wool can't block these fast, multiple attacks. The masked instructor, Leader 3, watches the exchange with mild interest. A massive vortex of blade strikes fills the air as the trainees clash. The boy pours all of his strength and speed into these attacks. To the boy's surprise, Wool actually managed to block all of the attacks. The boy admits that Wool is impressive for being able to block every single one of his strikes. The boy complains that it's no fun if Wool only focuses on defense. He demands that Wool entertain him further with a more aggressive fight. The boy laughs hysterically as he launches himself at Wool once more. Wool realizes he has no choice but to stop holding back and finish the fight. To everyone's surprise, Wool suddenly lets go of his weapon. The masked instructor is left confused by Wool's unexpected decision to stand unarmed. The boy is shocked and asks Wool if he is already giving up the fight. Wool stares at his opponent with a cold, unwavering gaze, showing no fear. Wool delivers a devastating kick that catches his opponent completely off guard. The boy is sent flying while coughing up blood. From above the facility, First Sword observes that the children are growing much faster than originally expected. Leader 2 suggests the training might finish 2 years early, but First Sword warns that he is underestimating their target. He explains that their target is the most talented man in Sichuan, and even a small mistake could lead to the destruction of the Blood Shadow group. He reveals that the children are being trained because they have no connection to the group, ensuring there are no issues even if they fail. Leader 2 apologizes for his oversight, and First Sword reminds him to remain on high alert at all times. First Sword orders his subordinate to push the trainees even harder with assassination techniques, regardless of how many might die. He believes that while the training is deadly, the ones who manage to survive will become even stronger. Wool delivers a brutal and decisive strike that leaves his opponent screaming in absolute agony. He stands over the broken boy with a cold expression as his opponent groans in pain on the ground. The masked leaders continue to monitor the children's progress, preparing them for their target.
Suddenly, First Sword arrives on the scene. He looks down at Wall and asks if he was responsible for the recent display. The two masked leaders stand in a disciplined formation, towering over the trainees on the ground. Wall is startled by how quickly they appeared and confirms that he was indeed the one who finished the fight. Without warning, First Sword points a sharp blade directly at Wall's throat. Wall is paralyzed with shock, unable to even see when the man drew his weapon. He is stunned by the incredible speed, unable to believe a human can swing a sword that fast. Looking at his defeated opponent, Wall wonders if he made a mistake by showing too much of his strength instead of holding back. He realizes that the captors only want useful tools, and that any small mistake could lead to his immediate death. Wall remains silent as First Sword finally lifts his cold blade from Wall's neck. He prepares to leave while the other trainees watch from a distance. First Sword lectures him, stating that a true assassin must never leave any trace behind under any circumstances. He explains that leaving a visible trace, like a broken arm, reveals one's martial arts style and identity to the enemy. He warns Wall to always keep in mind that he must never leave any traces during a mission. Wall lets out a sharp cry as he reacts to the intense pressure of the situation. He gasps for air, his body trembling from the ordeal. Wiping sweat from his face, Wall continues to huff as he processes the instructor's lesson. 6 years have passed since the children began their grueling ordeal within the underground facility. A lone torch burns in the silence, illuminating the ancient and crumbling stone walls. A masked man in a red hood and black mask stands guard as he searches for something. He scans the ruins with a cold and calculating gaze. A sudden and powerful strike cuts through the air with incredible speed and precision. One of the trainees cries out in agony as he is violently knocked to the ground by the devastating blow. The masked instructor coldly states that the trainee would already be dead if he were a real enemy. The defeated boy trembles in fear, while the instructor turns his back and walks away. He reflects that even with diligent study, an inexperienced assassin cannot fully hide their presence using the turtle breathing technique. Another trainee is struck down with a heavy blow, letting out a pained scream as the brutal training continues. The masked man looks down at the fallen students and declares that they are still far from being ready for a real mission. He notes to himself that there is only one person left to find in this sector. He pauses to examine a pile of wooden boards and rubble, suspecting someone might be hiding nearby. He questions his information, wondering if the 5 people he was told were hiding here have already moved or if the report was wrong. Despite his sharp senses, he is confused because he cannot detect the unique presence of a living human anywhere in the area. He demands that the hidden person come out, admitting that he is unable to find them. A sudden vibration echoes through the ground as something begins to move in the shadows. A pile of rubble and sacks begins to shift, revealing that someone has been hiding right in front of him. The instructor is shocked to realize that the target was hiding incredibly close to him without being detected. He acknowledges that he has finally found the person he was searching for. Pio Wool stands tall among the ruins, his long hair and glowing red eyes showing how much he has changed over the years. Wal calmly asks if he is permitted to take a break now that the training session has concluded. The instructor nervously gives his permission, and Wal immediately walks away with a cold and detached expression. The masked man watches him go, cursing Wal in frustration and anger for being so arrogant. A thick cloud of smoke rises near the roof of one of the underground buildings. A group of survivors sits together near a fireplace, with one boy grinning wildly while holding a meat skewer. The boy laughs as he notices Wal's arrival, mockingly asking what he is doing here. Wal stares, noting that So-Gyeok-san has changed his face again. The boy gleefully admits he has been using the face of another survivor who recently died. Wal warns him that he might forget his true identity, but the boy dismisses the concern, believing they will never escape. Wal questions that assumption, leaving the boy confused by his mysterious response. Meat sizzles over an open flame as the survivors continue their meal. So Yewol observes that the quality of their food has been steadily improving. She predicts that they will likely be sent on a real mission in the near future. A quiet, dimly lit hallway with traditional paper doors stands empty under the glow of hanging lanterns. First Sword sits alone and lets out a deep sigh, while his white mask lies discarded on the table before him. Now unmasked, First Sword Lim Seo reflects on how they have raised only 30 assassins out of the initial 300 children over the past 6 years. He reflects on the cruelty of the Jianghu, noting that the children he trained are actually better off than he was when he started from rock bottom. Feeling uncharacteristically emotional, he somberly realizes that his own death must be approaching soon. The heavy doors slide open with a loud creak. Leader 2 and Leader 3 step forward as their heavy footsteps echo through the hall. The masked leaders are surprised to see the commander without his mask and ask for the reason behind it. Lim Seol explains that the mask felt suffocating and suggests that after 6 long years, they are all finally free to reveal their faces. The two masked leaders share a hesitant glance before finally reaching up to remove their disguises. Their true identities are revealed as Second Sword Gu Shinheng and Third Sword Sang Ilshin. Lim Seol regrets the lack of alcohol for the occasion, while his subordinates reassure him that they can drink as much as they want once they finally leave the facility in the near future. Sang Ilshin reflects on their 7-year ordeal and looks forward to the children being sent on their mission so they can finally be freed from this place. Lim Seol asks about the current progress and status of the children they have been training. Gu Shinhaing reports that the trainees have far exceeded expectations, with some becoming so powerful that they surpass their instructors and are becoming difficult to control. He adds that it would be a waste to discard such elite tools after only a single use. Lim Seol somberly realizes they have no choice but to proceed, as those were the specific conditions of the original request. He informs his subordinates that it is finally time for them to begin the final stage of their long operation. He firmly places his hand on a manual, signaling that the ultimate test for the survivors is about to start. The survivors stand in silent formation before a stack of manuals, waiting for their next set of instructions. The masked leaders command 3 of the trainees to master the martial art technique found in the books before them. The commander orders the remaining 27 trainees to assassinate the 3 who were chosen to learn the special martial art. The students stand in shocked silence as they process the brutal reality of their final test. The survivors are horrified, questioning if they are being forced to slaughter one another once again. They curse their captors, unable to believe such a cruel demand would be their final trial. Standing before the group, First Sword Lim Seol coldly announces that this will be their final training exercise. He promises that once this task is finished, they will not be forced into any more training until they finally leave the facility. The survivors are frozen in shock as they process the commander's words with expressions of pure disbelief. Murmurs ripple through the crowd as the students desperately question if the commander is telling the truth and if they will finally be allowed to leave the facility. Ye Wall processes the commander's cruel offer, realizing that 27 of them can finally rest if they sacrifice 3 of their own. Wall remains analytical, deducing that the captors have thrown them a very tempting piece of bait to test them one last time. He understands that whoever chooses to learn the special martial art will immediately become a hunted target for everyone else. Looking at the manuals, he realizes they likely hold the advanced techniques used by their ultimate assassination target. Despite the danger, Wall admits that he is becoming greedy for such overwhelming power. He raises a clenched fist with absolute determination. He steps forward with a resolute expression and firmly declares his intention to master the technique. He stands firmly in the center of the crowd and raises his fist to signal his dangerous decision. Yewal looks on in disbelief, questioning if he is truly willing to become a sacrifice for the sake of the others. Wall stares back with sharp eyes and declares that time will tell if he ends up as a victim or a predator. Yewal warns Wall to stay alert because every single person in the facility is now going to be hunting him down. He simply turns his back and claims that he is actually looking forward to the upcoming challenge. The quiet roof of the underground training facility is shown under the dim glow of lanterns. A trainee gasps in agony as a sword is ruthlessly driven through his body. Song Qianwu stands over his victim with a sword in hand as the body collapses to the floor with a heavy thud. With a sweat-drenched face, Qianwu offers a desperate and tearful apology for his actions. He justifies his kill by noting the victim only learned the technique after drawing lots and claims he had no other choice but to strike him down. He grimly realizes that only one of the 3 martial arts practitioners remains alive and identifies Pio Wall as his final target. A sinister laugh rings out as So-gyeok-san gleefully describes the scene as a feast while Qianwu watches from a distance. So-gyeok-san laughs maniacally and declares that he is having the time of his life, leaving Min looking shocked while Ye-wol remains composed. Li Min looks deeply troubled as she questions if Wall is truly the only survivor remaining. The group realizes they lost sight of Pio Wall quite some time ago and wonders if he has already managed to go outside. Ye-wol suggests that Wall is likely still hiding inside the facility, and they simply haven't located him yet. She reflects on the fact that she hasn't seen him since their training session several days ago. A flashback shows Ye-wol and Wall training together. Ye-wol lunges forward, and her blade clashes against Pio Wall's, sending brilliant sparks flying between them. While unleashing a flurry of rapid strikes, Ye-wol confidently tells Pio Wall that he would be more dangerous without a sword. She notes that she has no fear of him with a blade, even though he is successfully blocking every single one of her attacks. Wal reacts with confusion as sharp impact effects flare up around him. Ye-wol questions if she gave Pio Wall unnecessary advice, realizing he is already a very difficult opponent to handle. So-gyeok-san gleefully suggests they should kill their instructors instead, claiming it would be much easier than trying to take down Pio Wall. Qianwu closes his eyes and solemnly nods in agreement with the dangerous plan. He suspects that their captors have placed hidden restrictions on them as a countermeasure. Ye-wol agrees and urges the group to prioritize finding Wall before worrying about removing those restrictions. She stands ready with her sword in the dark, cave-like environment. The group agrees that they have no other choice and begins walking deeper into the dark tunnel. They leave a trail of dead trainees behind them as they move through the cavernous depths of the facility. Wall, hidden behind the group in the shadows, stands over a fallen body and contemplates the dangerous plan to kill their instructors. He looks down with a somber expression as he stands over a fallen body. He gently reaches out to close the eyes of the deceased trainee, showing a final moment of respect. He deduces that the instructors are likely busy tracking the children who are hunting him, and notes that the captors would definitely maintain surveillance on anyone planning a rebellion. He walks forward with a resolute expression. He realizes that this is his best opportunity to finally uncover the true objective of his captors. Wall observes a lit building from the shadows and identifies it as the temporary base for the instructors. He notices that the facility is under heavy guard by multiple masked men. Despite the high security, Wall remains confident that he can find a way to infiltrate the base. Crouched against a large rock, he recalls the instructor's warning that moving would break the turtle breathing technique. Wal realizes that using the thunder-splitting cultivation technique to subtly split his breathing will completely change his situation. He notes that this technique allows him to move while erasing his presence to the absolute limit. Wal confidently asserts that he can move in a way that makes it impossible for human cognition to detect him, even as he walks right past the guards. Shrouded in a dark, shadowy aura, Pio Wall stands at the entrance of a long, brightly lit hallway. He calmly observes the path ahead and notes that he has finally managed to get inside. The camera pans across the wooden ceiling where glowing lanterns illuminate a quiet hallway. Pio Wall walks deeper into the facility and notes that he has finally reached the deepest point of the base. He cautiously looks around before sliding open a door and stepping into a brightly lit room. Wall stands at the entrance of a room and stares at a table with 3 chairs as a sharp sound echoes through the hall. While lying on the floor, Wall suspiciously wonders what kind of secrets his captors are hiding from them. As he flips through several manuals, Wall questions the true identity of the people trying to turn them into cold-blooded assassins. He suspiciously wonders where he is and how he can finally escape this facility. He notices a mysterious golden scroll and realizes it might hold the answers he is looking for. He carefully slides the scroll out of its container to uncover the secrets hidden inside. The secret document is a request for the Blood Shadow Group to assassinate a man named Wu Gunsan for a massive reward of 500,000 gold yang. It specifies a 7-year duration and strictly forbids leaving any traces of the group behind. Wall is stunned as he realizes he has discovered a formal letter of request for a high-level assassination. With his sharp red eyes focused, he suspiciously wonders about the true identity of their target, Wu Gunsang. He questions the true power of Wu Gunsang, wondering if one man is worth the 7 years of brutal sacrifice and the lives of 270 children who have already died. He kneels on the floor in shock, clutching the secret document as he reflects on the massive cost of their mission. P.O. Wall's sharp red eyes focus as a sudden ringing sound alerts his senses. He senses that someone is approaching and quickly drops into a low crouch to stay hidden. First Sword walks through the narrow hallway with heavy, echoing footsteps. He approaches the room. He stands silently before the sliding doors, radiating an imposing and dangerous aura. His masked face remains cold and unreadable as he prepares to enter. With a sudden and forceful movement, First Sword flings the door open to search the room. He enters the room and scans the quiet interior, looking toward the table and chairs. Wall realizes that despite his best efforts to hide his tracks, the arrangement of the manuals still looks uncharacteristically sloppy. First Sword stares ahead with a cold expression and immediately concludes that someone was recently in the room. Outside the building, hooded guards stand watch under the dim light of lanterns, while Leader 2 and Leader 3 walk through a quiet interior corridor. The two masked subordinates stop and react with sudden shock after noticing something unusual. First Sword walks toward them with an intense and menacing aura. One of the masked leaders nervously asks the commander if something is wrong. First Sword reveals that an intruder was just in his room and orders his men to search the entire cave to find them before they can escape. The masked leaders are outraged that someone dared to enter First Sword's room and desperately wonder who the intruder could be. Leader 2 asks the commander if he has any idea who might be responsible for the infiltration. First Sword points out that among all the children, no one is more naturally gifted at infiltration than the boy he has in mind. The masked subordinates ask the commander if he has a specific person in mind for the infiltration. He confirms their suspicion. He officially identifies P.O. Wall as the one responsible, while the boy silently watches them from above, using his technique to hide his presence. The masked subordinate find it unbelievable that P.O. Wall managed to infiltrate their base while every single person was busy hunting him down. They realize that leaving P.O. Wall alone will cause massive problems, but punishing him without solid evidence could trigger a major rebellion among the other children. The leaders decide to turn the other children's hostility toward P.O. Wall, leaving his subordinates shocked and questioning how such a thing is possible. First Sword coldly declares that he will use the Hell Flute to control the situation. The subordinates are stunned as the mysterious Hell Flute is revealed before them. Leader 2 hesitantly reminds the commander that the flute is meant to be a last resort restriction. He acknowledges that they will eventually have to use this power sooner or later. First Sword asserts that it is finally time to show P.O. Wall and the rest of the children the truth. Standing tall, he prepares to remind the survivors that he is their true owner and holds all their lives in the palm of his hand. First Sword asks his subordinates if they agree to the use of the Hell Flute, and both leaders quickly give their consent. Now unmasked, Lim Sayul stands atop a jagged rock under a crimson sky as he prepares to play the mysterious instrument. With a cold and menacing expression, Lim Sayul prepares to play the flute and vows to show everyone the true meaning of hell. Lim Sayul looks down from a high vantage point, observing the trainees as they move through the underground village. Yewol and Cheonwoo search the quiet streets, frustrated that they cannot find any sign of P.O. Wall's location. The survivors grow increasingly angry, calling P.O. Wall a coward and a rat for hiding so effectively that not a single trace of him remains. Yahello notes that even the best trackers cannot find any sign of Piowol and wonders where he could possibly be hiding. Suddenly, a sharp and high-pitched sound echoes through the cavern, catching the attention of the survivors. Yahello is visibly startled as she realizes the mysterious noise is actually the sound of a musical instrument. Screams of agony erupt as the survivors are suddenly struck by a wave of intense pain. Yahello gasps and clutches her chest in distress as the mysterious sound takes its toll. Unable to withstand the agony, the children collapse to the hard ground one by one. The facility is filled with desperate cries for help as the trainees writhe on the floor in pure torment. Min weeps in terror and gasps for air, wondering what is happening as she feels a horrific sensation like insects devouring her entire body. Piowol stands over Li Min, who is writhing in pain on the ground. He calmly realizes that the captors have finally activated the hidden restriction. He hears the sharp ringing in his ears and observes that the other trainees are in intense pain. While Li Min gasps in agony on the ground, Wol notes that he only feels a slight discomfort and wonders why he is the only one who is fine. Wal realizes he must immediately uncover the cause behind the sudden agony affecting the other survivors. He rushes to Li Min's side as she gasps for air and writhes in pain on the hard ground. He decides to perform a dangerous internal energy infusion, noting that their shared mastery of the thunder-splitting cultivation technique should prevent their energies from colliding. He confirms that her internal energy is stable and begins to question what could possibly set him apart from the rest of the group. Wal reflects on the fact that they all shared the same food, environment, and martial arts training, yet he is the only one unaffected. He suddenly realizes that the missing factor is the unique poison resistance he developed after his encounter with the snake in the dark abyss. He realizes that if the restriction is poison-based, his immunity from previous snake bites is the reason he remains unaffected. He suspiciously wonders how the captors managed to activate dormant poison in 27 people simultaneously using nothing but sound. Wal suspects the restriction in their bodies is a poisonous insect instead of regular poison. He realizes the captors likely mixed curse poison into their food and are now using sound to activate it. Wol's sharp red eyes focus as he spots something urgent in the distance. He calls out to draw attention to a specific location. He rushes to the side of a fallen trainee and observes that everyone in the area has collapsed. He looks around in shock as the mysterious sound continues to take its toll on the group. The masked men arrive at the scene and realize that all the trainees have gathered in one place. Wal nervously watches them arrive and wonders if he should run away or stay hidden. He ultimately decides to stay put, fearing that running away might reveal his secret poison resistance to his captors. Wal resolves to keep hiding his unique condition so the captors do not realize he is different from the other children. The masked men walk through the facility, ignoring the bodies of the collapsed trainees scattered on the ground. One of the masked men stops and expresses his curiosity after spotting something unexpected. He is standing over Piowol, who is on the ground pretending to be in extreme pain. Even though he looks like he's struggling to breathe and suffering, it's actually an act. He's faking it to fool the masked man. He shouts in surprise and alerts the others that Piowol has finally been found. First Sword suddenly appears behind the masked man, radiating a terrifying and dark aura. Without hesitation, he ruthlessly swings his blade toward Wal. Wal screams in pure agony as he is struck by the instructor's lethal attack. While he writhes in pain on the ground, with a sword driven through him, the commander coldly demands to know what he saw inside his room. Lim Sayol commends Piowol for hiding his true strength and notes that a sharp talent like him couldn't have stayed hidden forever. Declaring that such a nuisance is better off dead, the commander ruthlessly strikes Piowol, sending him into a fit of agonizing screams. Before the commander can deliver another blow, Leader 2 quickly intervenes and urges him to stop. Leader 2 insists that Wol's infiltration skills are necessary for their request, refuting the claim that the other children are enough. He questions if they truly believe that controlling someone as talented as Piowol will be an easy task. Leader 3 argues that the Hell Flute allows them to manipulate him easily since he is clearly powerless against the curse poison. Wall screams in apparent agony in front of them, clearly faking the effects of the poison. The two masked leaders stand together and watch the boy suffer in silence. The commander brings the torture to an end by ordering his men to feed the children the antidote. Wall continues his act of suffering as a masked man forces an antidote into his mouth to neutralize the poison. The other trainees groan in agony while desperately trying to understand why they were suddenly attacked by such intense pain. First Sword blames Pio Wall for their suffering, claiming the group was only punished because of his reckless infiltration of the base. He warns the survivors that they will be forced to endure the same horrific pain again if anyone dares to step out of line in the future. Wall sits in deep meditation against a stone wall while focusing on his internal energy. A flashback in his mind shows the masked leader observing Pio Wall and confidently noting that the boy is completely defenseless against the effects of the cursed poison. He realizes that the snake venom in his blood has neutralized the curse poison, allowing him to finally break free from the captor's hidden restriction. He suddenly senses something as the sound of footsteps starts echoing through the dark stone hallway. Li Min looks visibly anxious as she questions if Wall is truly hiding somewhere nearby. The group cautiously moves through the dark tunnel with torches in hand while their footsteps crunch against the stone floor. Ye Wall looks on in disgust, noting that while the others are resting, Pio Wall spends every single day secluding himself in the dark to continue his training. So Gyeoksan adds that it's impossible to tell what Wall is planning as he rejects the company of others to stay in such a dreary place. Ye Wall remembers the First Sword blaming Pio Wall for everyone's punishment and realizes that the other children now hate him because of the incident. So Gyeoksan shouts in frustration, questioning where Pio Wall could possibly be hiding since he is so difficult to track down. He screams in terror as Wall suddenly appears and asks why they were searching for him. Startled by his sudden presence, Ye Wall and Li Min shout his name in surprise while holding a torch in the dark tunnel. So Gyeoksan yells that Wall nearly scared him to death and demands that he stop moving around while concealing his presence. Wall calmly asks the group what they want, while Gyeoksan watches from behind with a sinister grin. Looking uncharacteristically nervous, Yewol clarifies that the group only approached him because they wanted to talk. Wall suspiciously asks what they want to discuss. Yewol clarifies that the topic is the hidden restriction placed on them. Yewol holds a torch and asks Pio Wall if he understands the nature of their shared restriction, noting that he only appeared beside them after the group regained their senses. Wall stares back with sharp red eyes as she deduces he must be unaffected by the restriction since he approached them after it had already been activated. Yewol looks on while Min stares back with a startled and wide-eyed expression. Min reflects on the intense pain she felt and wonders if Wall was the one who saved her by infusing his internal energy into her body. Yewol stares ahead with a serious expression and asks Wall if he is aware of the hidden restriction that has been placed on all of them. Wall calmly confirms that he is indeed aware of the situation. The group stands together in the dark tunnel, holding flickering torches while they wait for Wall's answer. Wall stares back and declares that he knows exactly what kind of restriction their captors have used against them. Yewol aggressively demands that Wall share the information he discovered with the rest of the group. Wall looks back with cold indifference and questions why he should be obligated to help any of them. He refuses to go out of his way for their sake and asks how sharing his secrets would possibly benefit him. Enraged by his selfishness, So Gyeoksan curses Wall and asks if this is really how he treats his own comrades. Wall's gaze turns sharp as he mockingly questions the very idea of them being comrades in such a hellish place. He points out that true comrades wouldn't be so eager to hunt and attack one another. The group is shocked to realize that Wall knows everything about their hunt. So Gyeoksan loudly vows that they should simply be comrades from now on, swearing to never abandon his friends no matter what happens. Wall stares down the others as they react with exaggerated expressions of skepticism and annoyance. He skeptically asks if they expect him to trust them so easily and notes their stubbornness with a knowing wink. So Gyeoksan laughingly asserts that stubbornness is needed to master the art of silk masks, and claims there are only benefits to having a capable ally like him. He invites Pyo Wol to visit his performance troupe if they ever escape, and promises to help him since they survived hell together. Yewol adds that she will also consider Pyo Wol a friend from now on. She firmly vows that the children who follow her will never show Pyo Wol any hostility again. Min looks on with a startled and wide-eyed expression. Blushing, Min promises to consider Pyo Wol special and vows that she will never betray him. Wol stands with a serious expression and officially reveals that the restriction used against them is actually curse poison. The group reacts with shock as they question if the restriction used against them is indeed curse poison. Wol explains that they were all infected with curse poison, a poisonous organism that stays dormant until activated by the sound waves of a flute. He reveals that once triggered, the poison flows through their blood vessels to attack their internal organs, while standing with a serious and determined expression. Yewol looks on with a sweat-drenched face and demands to know how Pyo Wol remained unaffected by the curse poison. Wol calmly explains that his natural resistance to poison prevented the curse from having a significant impact on him. The group reacts in shock as Wol bluntly states that they must find a way to remove the curse poison on their own now that he has shared his knowledge. He secretly calculates that having more variables is beneficial, noting that even one person escaping the poison's influence could change everything. Min looks at Wol and thinks to herself that she can never truly figure him out. She notes that he is always such a mysterious person while he stares ahead with a sharp gaze. Yewol thanks Wol and vows to repay him for his kindness. She tells him to come to her if he ever needs anything and promises to help him to the best of her ability. He calmly agrees to her request. She then states that they should get moving. As they prepare to leave, Min and Wol stand facing each other in the dark stone hallway. Min suddenly reveals that her name is Lee Solman. Wol is caught off guard, and Min clarifies that Solman is her real name. With a gentle smile, she asks Pyo Wol to remember her true name. After telling him her true name, Min leaves, leaving Wol alone. Wol's bright red eyes glow with surprise after learning Min's full name. Brilliant beams of sunlight break through the cracks in the cave ceiling and illuminate the rooftops below. First Sword stands in the light and officially announces that they will finally leave the cave today. He stands before the gathered survivors as they wait in silent formation for their next instructions. The trainees look up with expressions of shock and pure relief that their long ordeal is finally over. First Sword calls out for So Yewol. Yewol immediately raises her hand and responds with a loud shout of affirmation. The commander informs Yewol that once the instructors depart, she will be responsible for leading the remaining children out of the facility. With a wide, determined smile, Yewol enthusiastically accepts her new responsibility. A large woven basket is slowly lowered into the depths of the facility as a series of heavy creaking sounds echo through the air. As he observes the trainees from above, the commander silently wonders how many of them will actually manage to survive their upcoming mission. The commander acknowledges the children's strength, but notes that their target is one of the most talented martial artists in the world, meaning their chances of survival are slim. Lim Sayil declares that his role is finished and he plans to retire from the life of an assassin. The survivors gather together and gaze up at the brilliant light breaking through the cave ceiling. The children erupt in cheers of pure joy as soon as the instructors leave, celebrating the fact that they are finally leaving the facility. Yewol takes charge and begins organizing the survivors to depart in small groups using the lowering basket. Wol looks up at the light in disbelief, questioning if they are actually escaping this hellish place. Yewol approaches Wol and asks if he thinks they will be sent on a real mission soon. He agrees and asks her about the current status of the curse poison affecting the other children. As the basket descends, Yewol reveals that several trainees were detoxified because Min possessed extensive knowledge about poisons. Wol is visibly surprised to learn that Lee Min was responsible for saving the others from the restriction. Yewol confirms his suspicion as they prepare to move toward the exit. Yahello declares that it is finally time to leave, and Wall stares ahead with a look of absolute determination. The basket is raised as a heavy creaking sound echoes through the shaft. Yahello tells the others to get into the basket because they are the last ones left. As the basket rises, Wall looks back at the place they are finally leaving behind. Looking down from the height, the survivors are shocked to realize how deep underground they were kept. Wall and Yahello reflect on the 7 years of absolute hell they survived in the facility. Sogyok-san cheers in excitement as they approach the surface and finally reach the outside world. Wall's bright red eyes glow with intensity as he prepares to face the sunlight. He quickly rips his clothes to create a makeshift blindfold before they reach the exit. Wall urgently warns everyone to cover their eyes immediately to avoid being blinded by the sun. Yahello and Min brace themselves as the basket continues its slow, creaking ascent toward the surface. Wall urgently orders everyone to prepare themselves as they finally reach the exit. He groans in pain as the sudden blinding sunlight overwhelms his senses after years of darkness. He struggles against the intense agony, realizing that the natural light is far too powerful for his eyes to handle. The survivors scream in torment as the relentless glare of the sun continues to sear their vision. The pulley mechanism finally locks into place with a heavy thud, signaling the end of their long climb. After 7 years of absolute hell, the basket finally rests on the surface under the vast open sky. Footsteps echo across the cracked ground as someone approaches. The survivors huddle together inside the basket as they finally reach the surface. A mysterious man looks down at the group and remarks that they have successfully created some useful tools. Blinded by the sudden light, Wall shields his eyes and desperately tries to identify the stranger standing before them. The man gazes down at the survivors and confidently states that the requester will be satisfied with the results of their training. The party is now under a bright blue sky on the mountain peaks. Wall notices the man's voice is completely void of emotion and deduces he must hold a high executive position. Still blindfolded, Wall identifies that the mysterious figure must be the captain of the Blood Shadow Group. Blood Shadow Group Captain Gu Juyang orders his men to put the survivors in a carriage and move them to Clearwind Manor to acclimate them to the surface world. The subordinates bow in absolute respect and loudly confirm they will carry out his orders immediately. The survivors are forced into a wooden carriage by the masked guards as they prepare for their transport to Clearwind Manor. Wall silently vows that he has already memorized the leader's voice to ensure he never forgets his enemy. He directs his intense focus toward the Blood Shadow Group leader, marking the man as the primary target for his eventual revenge. Horse-drawn carriages transport the survivors through a narrow, rocky canyon toward their new destination. Gu Juyang informs the trainees that this is where they will stay as they adjust to life in the outside world. He warns the trainees not to relax just because they are outside and threatens to kill anyone who becomes lazy. Bio Wall stands in the quiet room, taking in his new surroundings after years of living in the underground cave. A silver-haired survivor named Go Shinnok watches Pio Wall with a curious expression. The trainee gather inside his new living quarters, looking around at their surroundings with mixed emotions. Wall notes the random lodging assignments and tells the others not to worry about his presence. So-gyeok-san laughs mockingly and claims that nobody was planning to worry about him anyway. Wall decides to take advantage of being outside by heading off to wash himself. The group stares in collective shock as they desperately question how something is possible. So-gyeok-san shouts in excitement after discovering a stone well in the courtyard. He laughs with pure joy, noting how refreshing the water feels as it splashes through the air. Wall lies peacefully on the soft grass while resting under the shade of a large tree. While taking in the moonlight and the wind, Pio Wall reflects on the fact that they have finally escaped their long imprisonment. He closes his eyes and wears a faint, serene smile as he enjoys his first moments of true freedom. The trainees gather around the well in the quiet courtyard to wash themselves under the evening sky. Sunlight filters through the lush leaves as Pio Wall sits quietly on the grass, soaking in his new environment. A solitary yellow flower stands tall against the backdrop of a bright and clear blue sky. Two trainees look down at the flower in wonder, questioning its name and commenting on its incredible beauty. Overwhelmed with emotion, the trainee weeps as they realize they are finally witnessing the beauty of the world once again. Both of them break down in tears over the simple flower, while Wall watches them silently from a distance. He stares ahead with a calm expression, his unique red eyes reflecting the light of the outside world. The moment of peace is suddenly shattered as a heavy black boot ruthlessly crushes the beautiful flower into the dirt. The trainees look up in pure shock as a pair of lethal daggers are thrown onto the grass before them. A masked man stands before the group and announces that weapons are being distributed, warning the survivors that they will be using them very soon. P.O. Wall sits on the ground and stares at the pair of sheathed daggers, realizing that his life as an assassin is only just beginning. The scene shifts to the Great Moon Palace, located in the Clear Breeze District. Inside a grand hall, Gu Zhuyang and Lim Sayol sit together for a private meeting. Gu Zhuyang pours a cup of tea while expressing his gratitude for the commander's hard work. Lim Sayol humbly responds that he only fulfilled his duty as an assassin trainer. Gu Zhuyang notes that their group's prosperity is due to the sacrifices of Lim Sayol and the others, expressing uncertainty on how to repay such favors. Lim Sayol insists there is no debt to repay, as he owes his life to the former head. While pouring a fresh cup of tea, Gu Zhuyang tells the commander that he has fulfilled his duties and is now allowed to rest. Lim Sayol looks on with a focused expression and asks if his request for retirement is finally being granted. Gu Zhuyang confirms the retirement and explains that he has arranged for not only his uncle, Lim Sayol, but also the second and third swords to retire alongside him. Lim Sayol expresses his gratitude while taking a calm sip of his tea. Gu Zhuyang tells the commander that granting his retirement is no trouble at all, since he has always given his all for the Blood Shadow group. Lim Sayol looks down with a somber expression and remarks that the children they trained are truly a waste. Gu Zhuyang maintains a serious and cold expression as he reflects on the outcome of the training. Lim Sayol remarks that the children are far too talented to be used only once and then thrown away. And Gu Zhuyang calmly acknowledges the situation. Gu Zhuyang notes that while wasting such talent is a shame, it is unavoidable, and their connection with the group must end here. Lim Sayol asks if they have managed to identify the mysterious person who made the assassination request. Gu Zhuyang admits he doesn't know either and warns against irritating a powerful client willing to pay such a massive reward. Gu Zhuyang reflects on his ambition for the Blood Shadow group to eventually rival the 100 Wraith Union, the greatest assassin organization in the Jianghe. He notes that even the highest level of caution won't be enough for what lies ahead. With a sinister grin and glowing red eyes, Gu Zhuyang declares that completing this request will allow the Blood Shadow group to take a massive leap forward and potentially catch up to the 100 Wraith Union. Lim Sayol sits in silence with a somber and focused expression as he processes the weight of their conversation. A firm hand tightly grips a lethal, serrated blade under the dim light of the night sky. Wall stands with a cold and focused expression, holding his unique serrated blade ready for action. Sogyok-san mockingly asks P.O. Wall what he's thinking about, and laughingly wonders if he's trembling because their mission is approaching. P.O. Wall admits that he is indeed feeling nervous to some degree as their mission approaches. Sogyok-san mockingly accuses Wall of lying, claiming no one would believe a cold-blooded assassin like him is actually afraid. Wall then points out that Sogyok-san is probably acting nervous because he is talking much more than usual. Sogyok-san scoffs and loudly denies feeling any kind of fear. Sogyok-san gleefully declares that he wants to start the mission immediately, believing the only way to be rewarded for his suffering is by taking someone's life. He stands with a maniacal grin as the other trainees look on with intense, glowing eyes. Wall stares ahead with a cold and focused expression. The survivors are ordered to step forward immediately with the weapons they were recently provided. The trainees react with sudden shock, while Sogyok-san grins maniacally in anticipation of the upcoming mission. The captain coldly informs the group that they will now be moving stealthily toward their next secret destination. Shrouded in a powerful aura, Wall realizes that the moment he has been waiting for has finally arrived. Under a bright full moon, the dark night sky looms over the quiet mountain peaks. Deep in the forest, a masked figure moves silently through the trees as the leaves rustle in his wake. The trainees leap through the dark woods with remarkable speed and agility as they pursue the masked figure. Fourth Sword notes that the trainees are keeping pace perfectly and following his lead without falling behind. He observes the group's movements and acknowledges that his senior brothers have done an excellent job training them. Fourth Sword somberly reflects that it is a waste to lose such talented children, as their skills are already equal to the regular members of their organization. A trainee's foot skids across the rocky ground, kicking up dust as they come to a sudden stop. He stands at the edge of a high cliff and commands the group to halt, and the trainees immediately skid to a stop behind him on the narrow mountain path. Looking out toward the dark horizon, the masked leader orders the survivors to hide themselves in their current location. Fourth Sword stands and watches as the group hides instantly at his command. Looking toward the jagged peaks, the masked leader informs the trainees that their objective lies within that mountain. He explains that if they climb the mountain according to his instructions, they will find a manor that looks exactly like the one they were all living in. The masked leader identifies the target as the man currently residing within the Bright Moon Palace. The trainees confirm they have perfectly memorized the path to the outskirts of the manor and question the identity of the person they were trained for 7 years to kill. With his glowing red eyes and a dark aura, Pio Wool prepares to confront his ultimate target, Wu Gunsung. A serene garden with vibrant pink lotuses blooming in a clear pond sits before a traditional manor under a bright sunny sky. A woman with long, flowing black hair stands quietly on a stone path, surrounded by a lush garden of white flowers. She turns to reveal a strikingly beautiful face with deep blue eyes and a calm, mysterious expression. She gently reaches out to touch a beautiful blue flower blooming under a clear sky. As soon as the finger makes contact, the flower instantly disintegrates into a cloud of dark dust. She turns around with a calm expression as a voice asks if she is spending her time alone once again. An elderly woman draped in a heavy feathered cloak stands holding a wooden staff and calls Seol Ran's name. The woman is officially identified as the Ame sect leader, the Abbess of 9 Calamities. Seol Ran tells her master that she was only outside to enjoy the nice breeze, but the abbess calls her unnecessarily sentimental. The abbess looks at her disciple and directly asks if she still holds on to any feelings of resentment. Officially identified as the abbess's disciple, young Seol Ran claims she isn't resentful, but admits she is inconvenienced by having her life on the line and wishes she had been excused. The Abbess of 9 Calamities glares intensely and accuses her disciple of taking a high and mighty tone. She angrily reminds Seol Ran that she rescued her from a life of begging and provided the food and martial arts training that defines her today. Radiating a dark and terrifying aura, the abbess expresses her pure outrage that Seol Ran would still ask to be excused after everything she has been given. Young Seol Ran casually dismisses her earlier statement as nothing more than a passing thought. She acknowledges that a disciple must always follow their master's will and advises the abbess not to get upset for the sake of her health. The Abbess of 9 Calamities sternly declares that if they don't get the answer they want today, they will finally execute the plan they've been preparing for 7 years. With a serene expression, Seol Ran confirms that she is always ready to follow her master's lead. Young Seol Ran looks on with a calm expression, thinking to herself as she notes that her master is dealing with a great deal of pressure. A disciple rushes forward while shouting for her master with a look of desperation. The newcomer stops and respectfully addresses both her master and her senior sister. Officially identified as Yeonghwa, she reports that they have just received important word from Chingcheng. The abbess asks for details on the news from Chingcheng, and Yeonghwa confirms that they received the exact proposal they wanted. A staff is slammed into the ground with a powerful impact, signaling that their long-awaited plan is finally ready to begin. Young Seol Ran looks on with a calm expression as she reflects on the fact that things have finally reached this point. The abbess warns Seolran that the fate of the entire sect rests on her performance, while the disciple reassures her master that she will not fail. The abbess of 9 calamities looks at young Seolran and somberly reflects on the shame of using such a talented child as a political tool instead of naming her the rightful successor. Young Seolran stands peacefully under the open sky as a gentle breeze blows through her long black hair. Younghwa asks her master how they should handle a specific situation, causing the abbess to question which matter she is referring to. The abbess of 9 calamities stares ahead with a focused, serious expression as she realizes the matter her disciple is referring to. A silhouette of Gu Zhuyang, the captain of the Blood Shadow group, is shown along with the golden scroll that was given to him. Zhonghua asks if they are discussing the plan and wonders what their next move should be. The abbess of 9 calamities falls into deep thought as she considers how they should proceed. A quiet mountain range stands under a vast open sky. Sunlight filters through the dense canopy of a lush forest. Pia Wall waits in the dark, questioning how much time has passed and wondering if it is still morning. He notes that the assassination will happen at night, realizing they still have some time left to wait. Wall admits he is more accustomed to the darkness and is relieved he can rest while standing by. He closes his eyes, trying to sense his surroundings, and remains perfectly still in the shadows. While he tries to sense his surroundings, an unmistakable presence looms nearby in the forest. Wall's glowing red eyes widen in shock as he senses that something is wrong and gets a bad feeling. A sharp blade descends with lethal force as a piercing sound echoes through the air. A masked assassin is ruthlessly impaled from behind and gasps in agony as blood splatters across the darkness. Wall reacts with absolute shock, his red eyes widening as he processes the unexpected turn of events. A muscular warrior named Yu Jinok crouches in the dense forest while firmly gripping the sharp blade. Yu Jinok confirms that assassins were indeed hiding in the area as he ruthlessly strikes one down with a powerful blow. The masked assassin collapses in a pool of blood with a stunned expression. Yu Jinok stands over the fallen body after delivering the finishing strike. Identified as Yu Jinok, the warrior mockingly questions why assassins would dare to hide on Qingcheng Mountain and suggests they must not value their lives. The Qingcheng sect warriors are ordered to find and kill the invaders who have come to attack their sect, and they immediately confirm their orders. Bio Wall looks on with his sharp red eyes and realizes that they are currently at a serious disadvantage. Recognizing the danger, the group of trained assassins decides to retreat and move away from the area for the time being. A Qingcheng sect warrior stands guard with his spear while scanning the area for any hidden threats. He is suddenly taken aback as he senses a powerful and unsettling presence nearby. The warrior looks down in shock as the ground beneath his feet begins to crack and shatter. His face is filled with pure terror as he realizes something is bursting out of the ground with tremendous force. Massive pillars of light erupt from the earth with explosive force as all the assassins begin to burst from their hiding spots, catching the warriors off guard. The group is ordered to disperse immediately and regroup once they have successfully escaped the enemy's encirclement. The Qingcheng sect warriors look up at the sky as all the assassins try to escape the area at once. Enraged, the warriors charge forward to pursue the assassins. Yu Jinok leans back, charging up a powerful spear blow to throw at the assassins. He throws the spear with all the force he can generate, and it cuts through the air at incredible speed toward one of the assassins. The hooded assassin is ruthlessly struck down by the powerful blow that sends blood splattering through the air. Yu Jinok then snatches a spear from a nearby warrior and prepares to use it again. The muscular warrior ruthlessly slides across the ground and calls for his next victim as he strikes down another hooded assassin. With a maniacal grin, Yu Jinok charges forward and demands his next opponent while an assassin gasps in pain from his lethal strike. He continues his violent rampage, shouting for the next target as he ruthlessly impales another enemy through the back. Yu Jinuk declares that this is the final target as he prepares for a lethal strike with his spear. The spear hurtles through the trees at incredible speed toward the final assassin. Wall sprints into the dense, dark woods to escape the ambush. His sharp red eyes focus with intense concentration as he senses the incoming danger. He reacts with lightning speed, using his foot to deflect the spear aimed directly at him. Sparks fly as the spear is knocked away by the powerful defensive strike, while Wall prepares for his next move. Wall launches himself into the air, using his incredible agility and force to kick the spear back at his enemy. The Ching Chung sect warriors are caught completely off guard as the spear zips right through their formation. The warriors are left in pure disbelief, desperately questioning what could have moved past them with such terrifying speed. Shrouded in darkness, Wall suddenly appears behind a startled warrior. The man is frozen in shock as he senses the overwhelming presence of the assassin behind him. He moves with unbelievable speed, shoving off the warrior's head before they can even react. The spear hurtles through the air like a streak of light, cutting through the forest canopy with incredible speed. Yu Jin-ok stands his ground as the incoming projectile zooms directly toward him with immense force. The spear slams into the earth with a powerful impact, shattering the ground right next to the warrior. A small cut appears on Yu Jin-ok's neck as the sheer speed of the passing weapon draws blood. With a maniacal grin, Yu Jin-ok looks at the embedded weapon and expresses his surprise at the impressive counterattack. Yu Jin-ok lets out a furious roar and orders his men to track down the assassin, commanding them not to let a single person survive. Wall realizes that it is impossible to face all of the warriors at once and decides that he must focus on escaping the area first. He sprints deep into the forest to evade his pursuers while Yu Jin-ok watches with a grim and persistent expression. Yu Jin-ok walks through the forest with his spear, displaying the large yin-yang symbol on his back. A long streak of blood stains the path as an injured assassin, with a spear embedded in his body, crawls along the ground. Yu Jin-ok stands tall over his fallen enemy, looking down with cold indifference. The dying assassin gasps for air and desperately questions what they did wrong to deserve such a fate. Yu Jin-ok coldly asserts that their crime was daring to invade the prestigious Ching Chung sect as a mere assassin. Wall sprints through the dense, shadowy forest, his footsteps echoing as he moves quickly uphill. He suspiciously wonders how the enemy knew their exact location, noting that they didn't encounter a single person during their trek to the mountain. He recalls, through a flashback, when Yu Jin-ok said that the information about the assassins in their sect was true, confirming that someone had leaked their presence in the area. As he flees, Wall reflects on the fact that he is the only one who knows their target's identity and questions who could have possibly leaked the secret. Wall notices that Fourth Sword and his subordinates are nowhere to be found and deduces that they must have retreated before the ambush began. He suspiciously wonders about the true reason they abandoned the trainees to face the enemy alone. A lethal rain of projectiles pours down from the sky as the captors begin the destruction of evidence. Wall is caught in the deadly ambush as the projectiles ruthlessly strike the ground and their ranks. He uses his incredible agility to dodge the incoming attacks, his sharp red eyes focused on survival. The relentless assault continues as more arrows keep coming his way, catching him off guard. Despite his skills, Wall is eventually hit and falls to the ground as the projectiles strike him. He collapses to his knees with multiple projectiles embedded in his chest. While gasping for air with arrows in his chest, Wall questions if internal conflict within the Blood Shadow group or a change in the requester's mind caused this turn of events. He realizes the only certainty is that the Blood Shadow group has completely abandoned them. Looking out over the steep cliff and the water below, he considers what to do in this new situation. An archer clicks his tongue in annoyance as he scans the rocky ground, desperately wondering where his target has managed to hide near a large pool of blood. The angry warrior curses at Wall while the assassin dives from above with his blades drawn and ready for a lethal strike. Moving with blinding speed, Wall crosses his daggers at the man's throat and delivers a fatal blow that sends blood splattering through the air. Standing over the fallen body, Wall realizes that he has been completely abandoned and resolves that he must now survive entirely on his own. The enemies spot the assassin and loudly command his death as he stands wounded over the fallen body. Pio Wall looks back with sharp red eyes, enduring the pain of the arrows stuck in his chest as he prepares for his next move. With his life on the line, he takes a desperate leap off the high cliff and plunges into the rushing water below to escape his pursuers. Pio Wall discovers a code carved into the ground, indicating a location around 200 jang to the north. Gasping for air and covered in blood, Pio Wall continues to push himself through the dense forest. He gazes up at the forest canopy before spotting another blood-stained rock marked with a mysterious code. While inspecting the site, he deduces that the next location is approximately 400 jang to the northeast. L observes the massive amount of blood on the ground and concludes that whoever wrote the code must be suffering from a life-threatening injury. He remains alert as enemies nearby shout that their targets are close and order a thorough search of the area. With his sharp red eyes focused, Wall is shocked to realize his enemies have set up a massive, inescapable net just to trap a few assassins. Observing the various uniforms, he deduces that at least 7 different clans are participating in the hunt, proving that the scale of this operation goes far beyond the Blood Shadow group. Pio Wall stands still, his sharp instincts flaring as he suddenly senses a deadly attack coming from behind. In an instant, he bends his body backward in an extreme stance, narrowly dodging the lethal strike aimed at him. While still arched back, Pio Wall turns his head toward the attacker. At the same moment, the attacker looks at him, both locking eyes in shock. Wall immediately recognizes her. The attacker is Li Min, and she realizes that the person she just tried to kill is Wool. From above, Li Min stands over him, her face and clothes stained with blood. Her expression turns somber as she looks down and says she has finally found Pio Wall. Li Min expresses her relief at finally finding Pio Wall, despite her blood-stained appearance. Pio Wall rushes forward as she begins to collapse and catches her before she hits the ground. Pio Wall observes her condition and grimly notes that she is seriously injured and likely won't last much longer. Pio Wall asks about the status of the other trainees. Li Min somberly reveals that most of the group is dead and admits she has no idea where Yowal and Qianwu are since everyone scattered during the chaos. A flashback of the ambush is shown. Qianwu yells for the others to escape while ruthlessly striking down a Qing warrior. Yewal urgently commands the others to go on ahead as she prepares to face the surrounding enemies alone with her dagger. With tears in her eyes, Min explains that Yewal and Qianwu stayed behind to fight until the very end to save as many people as possible. Pio Wall carries the injured Li Min through the forest and gently lays her down as she grows weaker. He somberly informs her that she is going to die soon. Li Min calmly acknowledges that she is already aware of her fate. Pio Wall looks on with his sharp red eyes and asks Min if she is afraid and if she still has a desire to live. Min confirms that she wants to live and desperately asks Pio Wall if he has a way to save her. Pio Wall stands over the dying girl with a somber expression and admits that he is unable to save her. Li Min admits that she has given up because she knows her body is failing, but she feels relieved that she won't have to die alone. As her life fades, she asks Pio Wall if he will stay by her side until the very end. Pio Wall looks on with a somber expression and firmly confirms that he will stay with her. Looking above, Min somberly reflects on how their journey has ultimately led to this tragic end. She laments that despite everything they endured to survive, they are still forced to face death like this. Min desperately questions who would do this to them and why they were targeted in such a cruel way. She expresses her bitterness over having her life controlled by a stranger and being forced to suffer under an overwhelming, unopposable power. Li Min expresses her deep hope that those responsible for her suffering will one day feel the exact same pain she is enduring. Pio Wall sits silently with Li Min in the quiet forest, while she reflects on how their journey has come to such a tragic and gruesome end. Pia Wall reveals that their current tragic situation is entirely because of their primary target, Wu Gunsang. Stained with blood and fading fast, Li Min reacts with pure shock and confusion as she hears the name of the man who caused their misery. Wall identifies their ultimate assassination target as Wu Gunsang of the Qingcheng sect, noting that an unknown client hired the Blood Shadow group for the job. He reflects on how they were all abducted and forced to endure 7 years of brutal training to become assassins specifically for this mission. As he watches over the dying Min, Wall realizes that their captors are now trying to eliminate the surviving trainees because they are no longer useful to the organization's master plan. Pia Wall vows that as long as he survives, he will quickly uncover who manipulated their lives and take his revenge, even if it costs him everything. A blood-stained and fading Li Min acknowledges Pia Wall's resolve, stating she knew he would be the one to seek vengeance. As her life slips away, Li Min calls out to Pia Wall and tells him that she truly wants him to survive. As her life fades, she weakly asks Pia Wall if he can call her by her name one last time. While he holds her in the quiet forest, she asks to be called by her real name. Wall calls her by her true name, Li Solman, before she passes away. With a peaceful expression, Li Min thanks Pia Wall and tells him that she truly wanted to hear her name from him before the end. As her strength finally fails, Li Min passes away, leaving her body on the cold ground of the forest. Shrouded in a dark and menacing aura, Pia Wall declares that he will find whoever planned this and erase them from the face of the land. With his sharp red eye glowing with intense hatred, he tells Min to watch over him as he prepares to take his revenge. A grand traditional manor stands tall between steep mountain cliffs under a bright sky. Gu Zhuyang and Fourth Sword walk through the towering pillars of a massive empty hall. Gu Zhuyang notes that an inescapable net has been set up, making it impossible for the trainees to survive. He somberly reflects on how throwing them away is a waste after all the time spent raising them. Gu Zhuyang holds a voided document and admits he always knew the trainees were pawns, but he never expected to discard them before they could even be used. Fourth Sword asks if their own location is also in danger because of the mysterious requester. Fourth Sword notes that while he doesn't know the reason, their captors have chosen to destroy all the evidence. Fourth Sword questions if it would be more effective for the requester to eliminate them as well to prevent their secrets from being revealed. Gu Zhuyang admits that the possibility makes sense, but remains confident that their location won't be found, suggesting they wait there until the danger passes. Fourth Sword questions if the captain truly doesn't know the requester's identity, and Gu Zhuyang replies that while he could find out at any time, there is a professional line that must be kept. Gu Zhuyang points out that they were even sent a warning message, concluding there is no reason for them to be the first to cross the line. Fourth Sword watches as Gu Zhuyang holds up the message that seems to be emitting a strange glowing light. Gu Zhuyang is horrified to discover that someone put tracking incense on the message, allowing their enemies to follow their every move. A sudden crash echoes through the hall as a massive group of warriors launches an assault, catching the organization completely off guard. Lim Sayo urgently orders his men to retreat, realizing they are no match for the overwhelming force of the invaders. A bearded leader commands his warriors to completely wipe out the assassins, ordering them to break their sacred commandments and kill every single one. A massive group of warriors lets out a thunderous roar as they surround the cornered leaders of the Blood Shadow group. Gu Zhuyang grins menacingly as he admits that Fourth Sword was correct. Fourth Sword urgently suggests they retreat, but the captain questions where they could possibly hide. Gu Zhuyang realizes the invaders are targeting him and notes that they haven't left any room for him to escape. With his eyes glowing with intense power, Gu Zhuyang furiously declares that his enemies have finally crossed the line. Gu Zhuyang stands with a powerful red aura as he prepares to unleash his weapon before the terrified monks. With a menacing grin and glowing red eyes, Gu Zhuyang declares that he is about to show his enemies his true power. Gu Zhuyang lunges forward with incredible speed, unleashing a powerful strike that creates a blinding flash of light. The warriors look on in horror as Gu Zhuyang moves with blinding speed. decapitating multiple enemies in a single fluid motion. Standing amidst the carnage, Gu Zhuyang furiously warns his enemies that they will be the ones devoured if they dare to challenge him. Lim Seiyul urgently orders all forces to hold on a little longer, claiming they can still win if they keep fighting. Meanwhile, Gu Zhuyang stands amidst the bodies of fallen warriors with his red blade drawn. A mysterious figure coldly interjects, declaring that they won't have the opportunity to succeed. He gathers a brilliant glow of energy in his hand and unleashes a powerful strike that tears through the air. The powerful figure radiates an intense aura while preparing to unleash a massive, swirling dome of energy towards Gu Zhuyang. Gu Zhuyang lunges forward with a maniacal grin and glowing red eyes, unleashing a devastating vertical slash of red energy. The two attacks collide with each other, causing a massive explosion of energy that shatters everything in its path. Gu Zhuyang groans in pain after being injured by the overwhelming power. Stunned by the overwhelming power used against him, a bloodied Gu Zhuyang demands to know the identity of his attacker. Radiating a powerful aura, Jianghua mockingly questions how a lowly assassin has the nerve to ask for her name. While Jianghua looks on with indifference, a terrified Gu Zhuyang realizes he is facing the infamous, life-ending, toxic heart Jianghua. Gu Zhuyang begins to piece together the identity of the requester, but Jianghua immediately commands him to stop where he is. Radiating a powerful aura, Jianghua furiously threatens to pull out his tongue if he dares to say another word. Gu Zhuyang is paralyzed with shock as he finally realizes that the Ame sect was the mysterious requester from the very beginning. Gu Zhuyang looks toward Jianghua and realizes too late that the Ame sect was involved from the very beginning. He deeply regrets his decision not to investigate the client's true identity. Standing in the middle of a shattered hall with fallen warriors nearby, Gu Zhuyang admits that his poor choices have led to this total disaster. With blood on his face and his blade glowing red, Gu Zhuyang furiously declares that he will not die alone and intends to take his enemies down with him. Jianghua stares back with cold indifference and mockingly questions how a lowly assassin has the nerve to act so bold. Jianghua moves with incredible speed, using her energy to deflect a barrage of incoming strikes with a sharp metallic ring. Gu Zhuyang lunges forward with glowing red eyes, unleashing a powerful red energy attack that creates a massive explosion. The two warriors engage in a high-speed clash as Gu Zhuyang dives from above to strike at Jianghua with a sudden flash of movement. The two warriors engage in a high-speed clash as their powerful energies collide in a massive display of force. Jianghua is impressed by the high-level martial arts of the assassin group leader and feels fortunate they are fighting in daylight rather than a dangerous night ambush. Jianghua declares that they cannot afford to let such a group exist and vows that they must all be slaughtered. Jianghua commands her enemy to die while unleashing a massive, swirling attack from above. The attack catches Gu Zhuyang off guard with its terrifying scale and destructive power. Looking at the vortex of energy, Gu Zhuyang somberly admits that his death is approaching and realizes that this is the end of the Blood Shadow Group. He reflects on how he built his organization through endless death and darkness, truly believing they would one day rival the legendary 100 Wraith Union that even the strongest members of the Jianghu feared. He somberly admits that everything ends here. But suddenly, a spark of hope appears. Gu Zhuyang furiously declares that he will be the one to survive as he unleashes a powerful vertical slash of red energy. Gu Zhuyang lunges forward with a maniacal grin as he prepares to counter the massive, swirling vortex of energy. But before anything else can happen, his leg is suddenly sliced in half by someone else. He furiously demands to know who has dared to interfere in his battle. Gu Zhuyang curses in shock as he realizes that the intruders are all ganging up on him, meaning he isn't even fighting their strongest warrior, Jianghua, alone. A massive, swirling vortex of energy is unleashed from above, completely trapping Gu Zhuyang. Gu Zhuyang is ruthlessly struck by the devastating attack, sending blood splattering as he gasps in pure agony. The aftermath of the powerful explosion leaves Gu Zhuyang battered and defeated inside a massive crater. Jeonghwa stares back with cold indifference and lets out a grunt of pure contempt for her fallen enemy. The masked assassins cry out for their captain in pure shock as they witness his sudden defeat. While the invaders ruthlessly slaughter the remaining members of his group, Gu Zhuyang lies battered and groaning in the center of a massive crater. Bloodied and broken, the captain gasps in total denial as he realizes that everything he built is coming to a tragic end. Yanghua bows her head and respectfully greets her master. The Abbess of Nine Calamities sternly questions why it took so much time to subdue the lowly assassins. Jeonghwa apologizes to her master and explains that the enemy's resistance was much stronger than she had anticipated. Gu Zhuyang is paralyzed with shock as he finally realizes the true identity of his attacker. From the bottom of the massive crater, he looks up in disbelief and identifies the newcomer as the Abbess of Nine Calamities. He screams in pure outrage, questioning how the Ime sect could betray the Blood Shadow group when they were the ones who made the original assassination request. Bloodied and broken on the ground, Gu Zhuyang screams that his attackers are worse than beasts. With glowing red eyes and a face stained with blood, Gu Zhuyang furiously questions how they could dare to betray him. The Abbess of Nine Calamities ruthlessly slams her staff into Gu Zhuyang, delivering a crushing blow that leaves him battered and bloodied. The Abbess questions what her enemy meant, calling him trash, and coldly orders her followers to finish off the remaining survivors. A sharp blade ruthlessly pierces through Lim Sayol's chest, sending a spray of blood into the air. Gasping for air and coughing up blood, Gu Zhuyang reels from the lethal strike as his strength begins to fail. Collapsing to the ground with a heavy thud, Lim Sayol realizes in shock that the Ime sect is responsible for his defeat. Lim Sayol reflects on the Ime sect's alarming growth under their new leader, the Abbess of Nine Calamities, and asks for the name of the powerful warrior standing before him. From his knees, Lim Sayol looks up in silence at the mysterious and beautiful woman who has cornered him. The woman calmly reveals her name to be Yang Seolran. Lim Sayol realizes that she is the legendary disciple of the Abbess, known for her angelic beauty and extraordinary talent. Yang Seolran dismisses his words as nothing more than exaggerated rumors with a look of cold indifference. Lim Sayol laughs bitterly, realizing that his decades of experience as an assassin were worthless against a single disciple of the Ime sect. Yang Seolran stands calmly over the bloodied Lim Sayol, who remains slumped on the ground. She looks down with a cold and indifferent expression. Yang Seolran slowly approaches her master and senior sister as her footsteps echo through the hall. Yeonghwa scolds her junior sister for being late and questions why she would even bother talking to a lowly assassin, while Yang Seolran offers a quiet apology. The guards announce that they have successfully brought the prisoner before the Ime sect leaders. They identify him as the individual responsible for leading the newly trained assassins to the area near Qingqing Mountain. The Abbess of Nine Calamities sternly demands to know the exact number of assassins the prisoner brought with him. The bloodied prisoner groans in pain and questions why she is asking for such information. The Abbess coldly tells him he doesn't need to know and orders him to answer. When the prisoner claims ignorance, she furiously accuses him of lying. The assassin defiantly declares that even if he knew the answer, he would never tell her anything after everything they've endured. With a sinister grin and glowing eyes, the Abbess mockingly acknowledges his tenacity, while reminding him he is just a lowly assassin. The Abbess grabs the prisoner's head with her hand, causing him intense pain as dark energy swirls around them. She exerts her overwhelming power through purple chains while the prisoner screams in pure agony. With her eyes glowing purple, the Abbess sternly demands to know exactly how many assassins were brought with him. Driven to the brink by the torture, the bloodied prisoner screams out that there were 28 assassins in total. Unable to endure any more suffering, he desperately begs the Abbess to finish him off and end his life. The Abbess lets out a cold grunt while looking down with a stern expression. She asks for a status report on the casualties, and her disciple confirms that 24 assassins have been killed. Noting that 4 enemies remain, the Abbess orders her subordinates to eliminate every remaining variable. Her followers loudly pledge their obedience as smoke rises from the devastated manor nestled between the cliffs. The abbess informs Seolran that her role from now on is vital and asks for her understanding, which the disciple immediately confirms. The master reveals her plan to coordinate a wedding date with the Chingcheng sect soon and commands Seolran to prepare herself, receiving another obedient response. As Seolran walks away, the abbess sternly reminds her that all of these actions are being taken for the benefit of the sect. Seolran maintains a calm and focused expression while reflecting on her master's instructions. The dark night sky looms over the quiet forest. A soft sound ripples through the trees as someone moves with incredible agility. Pio Wol crouches on a tree branch and looks down with a focused expression. From above, he observes the manor courtyard, where several guards stand watch under the dim light of lanterns. Wall notes that the exit is being strictly guarded and decides to find a way through from the inside instead. He gazes down at the guards and reflects on how their captors intended for them to die as the natural enemies of Jiang Hu. With his glowing red eye and a fierce expression, Wall vows to become a true natural enemy of the Jiang Hu. A breathtaking sunset illuminates the mountain peaks as a boy with a backpack stands under a tiled roof, looking out at the horizon. A Chingcheng sect disciple asks the boy if he's out collecting herbs again, and while he confirms it, another warrior notes that he was out doing the same thing yesterday. The boy explains that he was advised to gather as much as possible because of the unpredictable nature of things. As he heads down the stairs, the guard warns the boy to stay safe during these restless times, while the boy confidently questions who would ever dare to challenge the Chingcheng sect. The boy walks deeper into the thick forest while carrying a large backpack. A small bird rests peacefully on a branch under the clear blue sky. The boy stops to scan the dense woods and suggests that he should begin his search. The boy decides to head toward the nearest location while continuing his search through the forest. Suddenly, a dark figure with glowing red eyes lunges from the shadows to ambush the unsuspecting disciple. Pio Wol quickly subdues the boy from behind, muffling his cries while he desperately struggles to breathe. The disciple gasps in terror as he feels the cold edge of a serrated blade pressed against his throat. Paralyzed with fear, the boy desperately asks for the identity of the mysterious intruder who has captured him. Pio Wol ruthlessly slashes the Chingcheng disciple across the leg with his blade, leaving the boy gasping in pain. The disciple lets out a scream of agony. With the sharp blade pressed against his throat, the terrified disciple wonders about the identity of his attacker and who would dare to strike within the Chingcheng mountain. Pio Wol stares ahead with his menacing, glowing red eyes, while the captive boy weeps in absolute terror. Pio Wol holds the blade to the captive's throat and asks if he is a disciple of the Chingcheng sect, demanding a nod as confirmation. The terrified disciple weeps and quickly nods in agreement. Pao Wol offers to release the boy to answer his questions, but warns him not to try anything, asserting that he can end his life in an instant. Pio Wol finally releases the injured disciple from his grip. The boy immediately gasps for air and coughs violently while clutching the bleeding wound on his leg. Pio Wol asks for the boy's name and identity, and the captive reveals he is Dojin, a third-generation disciple of the Chingcheng sect. With a focused expression, Pio Wol demands to know what kind of man Wu Gunsung truly is. Dojin reacts with absolute shock and disbelief, questioning if Wol is referring to his senior brother, Wu Gunsung, who is known as the Lone Star of Chingcheng. Pio Wol stands over his captive and suspiciously repeats the title, the Lone Star of Chingcheng, while the terrified disciple looks back in fear. Dojin explains that Wu Gunsung is the greatest prospect in the history of the Chingcheng sect, having mastered their martial arts to an elite level. His talent even caught the attention of the former sect master, who personally guided him as a result. Wao realizes how dangerous their target truly is, noting that this explains why their captors spent 7 whole years training them specifically for this assassination. Dojin desperately pleads for his life, claiming he has already shared everything he knows, but Pio Wol remains silent and simply taps a pressure point on the boy's neck. Dojin gasps in pure shock as he suddenly realizes that his body has become completely paralyzed and will no longer listen to him. Dojin feels a growing sense of urgency and realizes he needs to escape the area as quickly as possible. At that moment, Pio Wall smears blood across his face and begins to do something. He is left in a state of pure confusion, desperately wondering what the intruder is trying to do. As he hesitantly turns to look behind him at what Wall was doing, he is left completely shocked by what he witnesses. Wall's face has completely changed. He now looks almost identical to Dojin, having altered his appearance to perfectly match his face using a disguise technique. Among the items he received from the Blood Phantom group were makeup tools, which he used to carefully recreate Dojin's features with a skin-colored mixture. Dojin reacts with absolute shock, questioning how the assassin was able to replicate his face. He notes that while there are subtle peculiarities to his movements if looked at carefully, they are nearly impossible to notice at a glance. Terrified and unable to move, Dojin can only stare back in silence as the situation grows more dire. Looking up at the menacing figure with glowing red eyes, Dojin wonders if the man is planning to infiltrate the Qingcheng sect. A guard at the Qingcheng sect gate reacts with surprise after seeing Dojin return so soon and questions why he has come back already. Successfully disguised as the disciple, Pio Wall calmly explains that he forgot something, prompting the guard to mock him for being a scatterbrain. As Pio Wall heads inside the facility, the guards behind him warns to stay focused, while the assassin gives a simple confirmation to finalize his successful infiltration. A single footstep echoes as the assassin officially sets foot inside enemy territory. Disguised as a disciple, Wall surveys the vast courtyard of the Qingcheng sect while observing the warriors moving about. He maintains a calm and focused expression as he prepares to navigate the facility. Wall walks through the grounds with absolute composure, blending in perfectly with the other disciples. He moves through the crowd with a steady pace, ensuring that his presence does not draw any unwanted attention. Unsuspecting warriors engage in casual conversation, completely unaware that an intruder is walking right past them. A dark and ominous energy begins to swirl around his feet as he activates his turtle breathing and thunder splitting technique while moving deeper into the area to hide his presence. Meanwhile, the other disciples continue their daily routines with smiles on their faces, oblivious to the danger lurking nearby. Shrouded in a powerful and menacing aura, Pio Wall confidently navigates the quiet streets of the sect. The buildings share the same architectural design as the in the cave where he trained. The path leads toward a secluded area where dense bamboo trees sway in the breeze. He follows the stone walkway deeper into the facility, leaving the crowded areas behind. Pio Wall looks up and remains alert as he reaches the final destination of his infiltration. He stops in his tracks and reflects on the fact that he has finally reached his target's location. Standing before a massive wooden gate, Pio Wall confirms that he is now at the entrance of Wu Gunsang's residence. While he appears to be a simple disciple on the outside, the vengeful and lethal ghost of Wall lurks just beneath the surface of his disguise. White birds fly over the rooftops of the Shangqing Palace, the central location of the Qingcheng sect. Two guards stand at attention outside the massive double doors of a grand hall. Inside, the high-ranking members of the sect gather around a long table for a serious meeting led by an elderly master. The Qingcheng sect leader, identified as the Saint of Martial Spirit, questions if the situation outside has finally settled. His companion informs him that the pursuit of the assassins is reaching its conclusion. The sect leader expresses his fury that mere assassins targeted their sect and asks his junior brother if he finds such an act tolerable. The man firmly denies the idea and suggests that the recent events were likely a calculated plot. He is officially identified as Wu Jinpyong, the second in command of the Qingcheng sect. When questioned about the culprit, Jinpyong explains it is too early to tell, but notes he has already sent disciples to gather information, earning praise from his senior brother. The high-ranking members of the Qingcheng sect continue their meeting, where one master declares with pure outrage, that whoever targeted them has committed an unforgivable act. Officially identified as the Saint of Martial Justice, the sect's greatest warrior notes that they are at a crucial turning point and must ensure such an invasion never happens again. Wu Jinpyong tells his senior brother not to worry and firmly promises that the task will be completed. The narrator explains that during the War of Heaven and Demons, the Jianghu was nearly overrun by the Celestial Demon Union until the extraordinary martial artist Li Guok formed the Providence Alliance. A terrifying, many-eyed monster looms over the desolate land, representing the overwhelming threat of the past. Righteous factions like the Shaolin Temple, Wudang, and Manhwa joined the struggle, achieving great feats that restored their former glory. However, sects like Qingqing and Eme remained isolated and failed to participate, leaving them with nothing but the empty title of the great families of Sichuan. The silhouettes of their leaders stand apart in the darkness, unable to compare to the influence of the sects that fought for the world. The sect leader asserts that they cannot allow themselves to be hindered if they want to catch up to their rivals and urges everyone to remain focused. Wu Jinpyong tells his senior brother not to worry, claiming that if their current plan succeeds, they will be able to catch up to the other sects within 10 years. The Saint of Martial Justice leans forward with an enthusiastic expression, exclaiming how dependable the person before him is, and how glad they are to have him on their side. Wu Jinpyong praises his senior brother's magnificence and notes that his son has also been blessed with great talent, though the Saint of Martial Justice humbly claims he is being flattered. The Saint of Martial Justice asks about Gunsang's current status and learns that he is completely withdrawn from the outside world. Wu Jinpyong listens to the question with a somber, serious expression. He internally notes that, as far as he knows, Wu Gunsang has isolated himself to focus entirely on his training as a form of atonement. Wu Jinpyong looks down with a somber expression as he apologizes for failing to raise his son properly. The Saint of Martial Justice reassures him, noting that his son's actions are understandable for such a vigorous young man. The Saint of Martial Justice agree that no apology is needed for a matter settled peacefully, while Jinpyong vows to ensure his son pulls himself together. The bearded warrior confirms that his word is more than enough. He remains resolute, stating that he doesn't care what society has to say. A sharp sound echoes through the air as a blade is swung with blinding speed. The master praises Gunsang, saying that he possesses true talent. He reflects on the boy's potential, noting that if raised correctly, he won't fall behind the successors of the three great sects. The high-ranking members of the sect nod in collective agreement during their serious meeting. The sect leader interjects with a serious tone, signaling a significant shift in the conversation. He asks Wu Jinpyong for clarification on whether he has officially accepted the Ame sect's marriage proposal. Jinpyong confirms that they have indeed accepted the proposal. The group discusses the marriage proposal with the Ame sect, confirming that the bride is the abbess of 9 Calamity's youngest disciple. They acknowledge the rumors of her intelligence and beauty, concluding that she is a suitable match for Gunsang. Wu Jinpyong looks on with a somber expression and admits that he still has some lingering concerns about the situation. The sect leader asks if his concerns are because of the abbess, and Wu Jinpyong confirms that is the case. Jinpyong explains that the abbess is desperate to overtake their sect and fears that if Gunsang marries her disciple, the Qingqing sect might be the ones devoured. He admits this is the reason he has been rejecting the marriage proposal until now. The Saint of Martial Justice argues they have no choice but to stop being enemies in Sichuan. He emphasizes that since Gunsang is their only hope, Jinpyong must give him very special care. Wu Jinpyong gives his firm confirmation that he will follow the instructions. Meanwhile, standing in front of the massive wooden gate, Paya Wall prepares to enter the heart of the sect, while still disguised as a simple disciple. He identifies the building as the Bright Moon Palace and realizes the layout is identical to the replica in the underground cave, making the area feel familiar. As he walks past a row of bamboo trees, Wall confidently notes that entering the palace won't be a problem even if the gates are tightly shut. Disguised as a disciple, Pio Wall leaps across the tiled rooftops of the Ching Cheng sect with silent agility. He pauses as he overhears a question about whether senior brother Wu has brought another woman to his residence. Wall crouches low on the roof, carefully observing two warriors of the sect conversing in the courtyard below. One warrior expresses disbelief that Wu Gunsang is using isolation training as an excuse to bring in women, while his companion urgently tells him to remain quiet. The warrior wonders if the woman this time is another disciple, but his companion sternly tells him to shut his mouth before they get caught and scolded. Peering over the roof, Wall is shocked to learn that someone is bringing women into the training hall, an act considered unimaginable for a prestigious sword sect. The two warriors agree to end their conversation and head back inside the facility. Yewol reflects that no matter where one goes, there is always someone who is truly different on the inside. The dark night sky looms over the quiet facility as clouds drift past the rooftops. Shrouded in shadows, Wall finally removes his disguise and realizes that now is the time to move deeper into the palace. He sprints through the narrow alleyways with quick, silent footsteps as she continues her search. He steps into a massive, empty hall and cautiously surveys the quiet surroundings. Wall realizes that Gunsang isn't in the room and hasn't attempted to leave the area yet. After confirming that he isn't upstairs, he deduces that there is only one possible place left where he could be. Wall moves silently through the quiet corridors of the palace. He passes by a barred window that looks out into the dark night. Wall enters a massive training hall where numerous swords are stuck into the wooden floor. In the distance, he finally spots a figure resting on a mat in the middle of the empty room. Pio Wall reaches his destination and finds Wu Gunsang sleeping peacefully with a woman by his side. Pio Wall peers down from the ceiling and identifies the sleeping figure as his ultimate target, Wu Gunsang. Even from a distance, he can immediately tell that Gunsang is on a completely different level compared to the Blood Shadow Group captain. He realizes that Gunsang is a man in an entirely different league. Wall notes that even a master like Gunsang is still human and will die if his pressure points are struck or he is stabbed. He crouches on the ceiling rafters, preparing a thin wire for his move. A thin loop hangs silently from the ceiling as Wall watches his target from above with intense focus. Wall carefully lowers the loop over the sleeping Wu Gunsang's neck, his eyes filled with tension as he prepares to strike. The wire loop finally wraps around Gunsang's neck, ready to tighten at any moment. A sudden and massive explosion of energy erupts as the target is caught in the trap. With the wire tightened around his target's neck, Wall pulls with absolute focus, his sharp red eyes locked onto his target. Wu Gunsang gasps in agony, while the woman beside him screams out for her senior brother in pure terror. Wall drops from the ceiling after wrapping the wire around Gunsang's neck. He violently pulls the wire tight, then descends with his full weight, hanging his target in the air and delivering a fatal blow. Wu Gunsang desperately struggles as the wire tightens around his throat, leaving him hanging in the air. Despite the deadly trap, he forcefully grabs the wire with his bare hands and cuts through it himself, freeing his body before dropping down and gasping for air. He lands forcefully on the wooden floor, while the woman beside him looks on in pure terror. He faces the dark figure who has successfully infiltrated his residence. Gunsang stares at the mysterious intruder with a focused expression and demands to know exactly who they are. Wall's hand tightens on his hilt as he draws his weapon with a sharp sliding sound. Moving like a dark shadow, Wall blurs across the training hall with incredible speed. He lunges forward with a powerful strike, but Gunsang remains perfectly calm as their energies collide. Gunsang focuses his internal energy into his hand, causing his index finger to radiate a brilliant golden glow. With unbelievable ease, Gunsang uses a single finger to deflect Wall's lethal blade with a sharp metallic ring. Wall is left stunned after Gunsang blocks the attack with his bare hands. But before he can even react, Gunsang suddenly launches forward and appears right in front of him in a split second, completely catching him off guard. Gunsang strikes Wall with a devastating blow, using his bare hands, sending him flying backward from the sheer force. But that's not the end. Wall stares ahead with a shocked yet focused expression as he witnesses his opponent's next move. Gunsang unleashes a massive blade of energy that towers over the training hall, leaving Wall to brace himself against the overwhelming power. Wall is pushed to his absolute limit, gritting his teeth in pure agony as he desperately tries to withstand the crushing force of the attack. Wu Gunsang unleashes a flurry of glowing energy strikes, forcing Wall to desperately defend himself. Wall grits his teeth in a fierce struggle as sharp sparks fly from the repeated impacts of his opponent's relentless assault. Pushed to his limit, Wall realizes he is on the verge of losing consciousness just from blocking, and wonders how Gunsang can generate such overwhelming power barehanded while coughing up blood. Wall realizes that he cannot keep blocking forever and knows he must find a way to escape this situation immediately. Realizing he can't continue fighting his opponent head-on, Wall quickly hooks a knife off the ground with his foot and launches it at Gunsang's neck at full speed. Despite the cunning move, Gunsang displays terrifying composure while stopping Wall's attack with nothing more than his fingers. Gunsang acknowledges Wall's talent and remarks that the assassin even knows how to pull off clever tricks in a fight. While still holding the blade, Gunsang demands to know exactly who sent the assassin to his residence. Pio Wall gasps for air as the exhaustion from their high-speed battle begins to take a heavy toll on his body. A sinister grin spreads across Gunsang's face as he begins to suspect the true identity of Wall's employer. Radiating a dark and menacing aura, Gunsang mockingly asks if the father of a certain woman, whom he crudely refers to as a bitch, was the one who sent him. Wall reacts with a look of pure shock and fury at the disrespectful way his opponent refers to someone else.